So welcome back to live coverage of this, the second round of the 2014 Touring Pro Series Virtual Mini Challenge here at Jacarepagua. And of course, we're currently in warm-up with Chris Butcher on pole position for race one. And whilst the cars are currently in warm-up, we'll take this opportunity to have a look at some of the events that are coming up next in the world of TPS in the Winter Series. The next race you'll see after the Minis is going to be the Virtual Supertech Series. That broadcast is taking place this Saturday, the second round of the championship, which is going to be at the Circuito de Jerez in Spain. Unfortunately, there wasn't a broadcast, at least for race one, so apologies for that at Curitiba, but hopefully it should all be sorted and we should have one for Jerez on Saturday. Then, this time next week, we'll see the Virtual Touring Masters again. They had a fantastic reception from its first race at Spa-Francorchamps. Their second race will be at Salzburg Ring in Austria. That's going to be next Wednesday, I should say, sorry.
Yeah.
And that should be very enjoyable once that one. And also, we don't have a poster for it, but we will have, of course, the following Saturday, not this one, but next Saturday, we'll have the next round of the very hotly, very widespread, very popular Virtual Carrera Cup, and that will be taking place around Lebanon in France. So that was after two very feisty races in Monza. Hopefully that can buck the trend, and hopefully we'll have a fantastic couple of races at Lebanon. So back to the warm-up session then here at Jacarepagua, where we can go through the grid, I guess, in some context, and have to say, Butcher takes pole position once again, but I think standout performance has to be this man right here, Ryan Callan, because, as we are now switching to the race format, so we'll go through the grid in a second. I think if we do it in reverse, or how do you want to do it? Forwards or backwards like we did? Do it reverse? Okay, cool. So we'll go from the back then. So starting from the back of the grid then in 28th position, as the cars then will head off onto the warm-up lap very, very soon. And it's going to be Ben Richards who'll start from the back of the grid in 28th position for Aerostream Racing. Alongside him will be Kostas Kaludis in one of the independent cars, I believe. Ben Hackson starts on row 13 and 26th for Smile Power with David Nannon 25th. And then 24th on row 12 is going to be Scott Sovic in one of the Aerostream cars, and Matt Richards 23rd, also for Smile Power Racing. Matt Richards, sorry, he's Aerostream as well.
Aerostream, sorry.
22nd is going to be Mike Bell. But that clearly isn't Mike Bell because he's in the walk racing. But no, he's in the walk racing car. Apologies. It's smart. Mike Bell runs Smile Power Racing, but he races for Walk Power Racing. So there we go.
And he'll not be happy to have Lewis in front of him on the grid.
No, he won't. But he'll be happy to be ahead of quite a few of his own cars, at least. 21st is Lewis McGlade, and 20th, rounding out the top 20, and out the top 20 at least, is Pedro Amaral, 40 KT Portugal. And then we've got Luis Fernandez on P19 for Smile Power Racing again, and P18 for I'm trying to pronounce his name.
Arachuch
Razvan. There you go. Thank you for that, John. That's going to trouble me forever. And we've got Javier de Carvalho alongside him on row number 9, the Portuguese driver. And then what I'll do is the last two drivers here, Ethan Bass in P16 and Jimmy Hughes in P15 make up row 8. And if John wants to take over the rest of the grid very quickly, to take out the next 14 cars up to pole position.
Yep, definitely. So Rhys Gardner will be starting in 14th behind THR Orange Thomas Matuzowski. And 12th position is Jonathan Ockerclinth, who says he's been struggling this week. And he's behind the predicted champion, Toby Davis, who was many people's favourites to be champion. Dan Allenson is starting 10th alongside Miguel Neto. As we quickly go through the rest of the drivers, Eric Tveit for Ice Cold Racing is 8th, with Robert Wiesenmuller in 7th, the reigning champion. George Talbot an impressive 6th. Rasmus Salo for THR Blue is starting 5th. Eric Strand will be starting 3rd for Ice Cold Racing. Then there's two walk cars of Peter Duevelar and Ryan Callan with a stunning qualifying, and Chris Butcher, the championship leader, on pole position.
You can see in P6 that George Talbot has a brand new livery, the bright blue car with the Siemens sponsorship. We're getting ready for the lights then. Race 1 of round 2 here at Jacarepagua. For round 2 of the Virtual Mini Challenge, it's Butcher on pole with Callan alongside him. Can Callan take a victory? Can Butcher take win number 3? We'll find out in just a moment as the lights are about to come on. We're looking forwards now from Chris Butcher's THR Mini and waiting for lights now. Here they come then. So, revs are going to rise and waiting for a start. And let's see who's going to get the better start. Lights out, and we're racing at Jacarepagua. And a decent start at least for Chris Butcher. A rocket start from Chris Butcher. Look at that. And Ryan Callan will slot into second place with Duevelar trying to look to his outsides. They head into the hairpin for the first time. Tight squeeze. They head through this long, almost 180-degree left-hander onto the back straight. There they go. And it looks as though it's Strana slotted into 4th. Rasmus Salo is now 5th, and George Talbot is still 6th. VC Miller's dropped a place to Tveit off the start, and Toby Davis is into 10th. as Miguel Neto is up there in 9th position as well. Down the back straight they come for the first time, and it is still Butcher who leads from the 2 walk racing cars of Callan and Dweebler, with Strana in 4th, Salo up to 5th past Talbot. The bright blue cars they head now through the Sul curve and now through turn number 3. There's Busimil now up the inside of Tavite in this right-hander here, which is Moret. And they're slightly going wide as they go up towards the next left-hander, which is Lagoa. And now they're going to head up towards another corner here, which is up on the left-hand side. And that is now, so that's now Moret, that was Lagoa. Now coming up towards Box, which is now the number 10, which is the next 6th corner on the circuit. Very fast left-hand. That's a car from the left-hand side. That's Eric Tavite. He's gone wide onto the grass. He's dropped several places down to 10th, and now he's sideways through Box corner. Got a tag, I think, from Jonathan Osserclint. As now they head down towards Vittoria corner to end the first lap. You can see there's a lot of battling going on at the front as Callan is still ahead of Dweebler, but that's Strana heading past Tweeter Dweebler on the inside of the final corner to head across the line to start lap 2 as Talbot now looks to the outside, and there's a bit of contact in the background. I saw a car was slightly sideways, but down towards the hairpin they come, and it's Dweebler who'll have the inside run, but I think Strana's going to stay ahead. No, he's not, because Dweebler just runs straight into on the exit of the corner and straight back into 3rd place, and Salo has got past Talbot once again for 5th position. So a frantic start, but Butcher once again with 0.7 second advantage over Callan, but it's fast and frantic in the midfield, John.
Yeah, definitely. That was a bit naughty by Peter Dweevelar. Seemed to miss his braking point and hit the Ice Cold car quite hard. But it looks like the Eric Strani is getting revenge on Peter Dweevelar as he takes down the inside and moves up into the 3rd position. But the front 2 guys have just streaked away. Ryan Callan was feeling quite pessimistic as, there's so many cars sideways. Rasmus Salo and Talbot get into each other and get a little bit sideways, but somehow managed to hold it. Some good holding driving there, and the 2 THR cars behind them are side by side. It's Toby Davis and Robert Wiesenmuller. It looks like Davis is having a quick look down the inside. Sorry, Wiesenmuller it was, but Davis holds on to the position. George Talbot will be delighted with his race so far, although I doubt he'll be liking what's happening in his rear view mirror right now as Toby Davis puts him under some serious pressure. There's contact going into the corner, and Talbot, can he keep it on the road? He does, and Toby runs wide, and he's now going to be under pressure by Robert Wiesenmuller, but Talbot got quite a big punt going into the braking zone there. He did well to save it. But as you said, Chris Butcher still has a lead as the battles continue behind. Chris Butcher's lead is actually now reduced to 0.5, so it looks like Ryan Callan is actually bringing the field towards the THR red driver and of course winner of round 1 at Curitiba in both races. And look at that behind them, Eric Strand closing right in on Ryan Callan. It's ice cold Eric Strand, the man who you could say was in form right now. He was definitely the man in form heading into the Winter Series, and he hasn't had a bad start to his campaign. It wasn't a perfect race at Curitiba, but he did pick up some good results and showed he's definitely a contender. Ryan Callan, on the other hand, it's been a long time since he's found himself up in 2nd place, and he's doing a great job for Walk Racing, holding it there ahead of his, you could say, more illustrious teammate, Peter Dweevelar, who's of course a double TPS champion, and Ryan will be absolutely delighted with how his racing was going, because as I said, he was pessimistic going into it, not sure if he was going to be as quick as his pace showed, and he's proving us wrong, and this looks a bit more like the Ryan Callan of old, Scott.
Certainly does, but he's getting the big hurry up so far from Eric Strana, who really is putting Callan under a lot of pressure. And as you said, just to reiterate what John just said, it's been quite a while since Ryan's been up in this position at the front of the field. He ran in Matomon's local clears, but struggled initially, and wasn't really able to find the pace of the guys that ran at the front, guys like Jack Keithley and such, and Simon Keelov, those kind of guys who ran in precision. Of course, he's no longer running a touring car effort in their kind of catalogue of sim racing events as such. But now onto the pit straight once again to end lap 3, and Callan is having to fend off big time from Strana, who's going to try and pick his line down towards the hairpin here at turn 1. And under the braking zone, is he going to try and make a look up the inside? Yes, he is. Here comes Strana for 2nd place. Callan has the door open, and will he try and get the switch back on the exit? No, he won't. So Eric Strana makes the move and is up into 2nd place. And whilst that was happening, Chris Butcher set the fastest lap of them and has pulled the gap out to just over a second. So now Callan has to try and attack Strana, but also try and defend from his teammate Peter Dweevelar, and attack is exactly what Callan is trying to do as they head into Sul Curve, this long left-hander, which in an F1 car back in the days when they used to run F1 here back in the 70s and 80s, you approach there at some, I'm guessing, 170, 180 miles an hour, incredibly fast circuit with these long sweeping corners. It was a circuit that took over from Interlagos when it's finished racing back in the late 70s, when they made the changes to the circuit to the more familiar shape that we are used to now. And they used F1 here until about 1989, when they went back to the Autodromo Carlos Pacha in Interlagos to get back there. Now, looking back to P6, George Talbot is under pressure from 2 THR cars. The THR orange machine of Toby Davis, car number 20, and car number 1 The reigning champion. Callan goes wide in the foreground. He's now under pressure from Dweevlar, who's now trying to go round his outside. The two teammates almost collide into Victoria Corner, into the final turn, back onto the pit straight. And so Callan is finding all sorts of pressure here up at the front. And Dweevlar will look to the outside here, and Callan's being forced to go very defensive turn one every single time. So we're now on board with Dweevlar looking forwards, and his teammate is underneath. He's breaking very deep into turn one, feeling that's the kind of pressure he's under, trying to just stay ahead and remain in third position. He would love to get a podium. It's been quite a while since he managed one. And looking back, some of the gaps, Talbot, Davis and Vesey Miller are very close behind as they went across the line. There was only 0.2 of a second separating them as they came across. In fact, here they are, look at this. 5th, 6th and 7th, 6th, 7th, 8th, so close you can almost throw a blanket over them. As Davis looks to the inside, and now Vesey was looking to the outside of Davis as they head through Sill Corner, and they almost make contact. They do. They rub wheels, and here comes Eric Tveit in car number 83, trying to go round the outside, but there's no room at the end there for the ice-cold driver, and the young Norwegian has to give way as Davis now fending off once again from Vesey Muller into Lagoa and up towards Lagoa, the top corner here. Out this curve sorted out, this shorter layout of the Jacarepagua circuit, and so far looks as though at the moment Talbot's being allowed to break away slightly, but Davis looks to be mainly the man under pressure here at the moment, John.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was a good move actually by Eric Strand near the front to get past Ryan Callan. Ryan gave a lot of room, which was good to see, and it was a nice clean manoeuvre, and those two continue the battle. But this is probably the closest battle on track at the moment, as George Talbot in the beautiful new Siemens livery comes right under pressure by Toby Davis. And if Davis can make it past Talbot, and there's a bit of rubbing on the exit, but they're going to head down the pit straight, and if Davis can make it past Talbot, he will then move up into 6th place behind Rasmus Salo. So that would have been a good start from the THR drivers. And George Talbot defends nicely, holds a nice strong inside line. But and look at that, the two walk racing cars are side by side. So Dweevlar is down the inside of Ryan Callan, and it looks like Callan's going to have to give way. I think Dweevlar got a much better run out of the previous corner, and Peter Dweevlar takes up the 3rd position, and Callan looks down the inside. There's almost contact, there might have been, I'm not quite sure, but they both managed to keep it relatively intact, and that was very risky from the two walk racing drivers, as there's more overtaking going on behind here.
Talbot's lost places. Talbot's dropped 4 spots, you can see. Like, he's dropped back behind Dave, he's dropped behind both the THR cars and also Miguel Neto. And here's the replay. Talk us through it, John. He just ran wide.
Yeah, he seemed to get 2 wheels on the grass, and that corner, it's so easy to lose a lot of time there, and it's cost him many positions. He's also behind Miguel Neto now, as we can go back to live, and Neto's looking down the inside of Tveit. A little bit of rubbing there by Neto, and he's definitely looking racy for AKT Portugal, I believe it is. Sorry if I butchered the name there. And yeah, Neto's definitely looking racy. He was very quick in the first round. He had a couple of good results as he goes, dives right in front of George Talbot to the inside. Manages to hold the place. Talbot will be looking for the undercut. A slight bump on the front, but nothing too malicious there. As Chris Butcher sets the fastest lap, Talbot runs wide out of the corner, and that's going to put him under pressure by the Optimum driver. I think it must be Jonathan Ockerclinth, who's having a great race up in 11th, even though he said he was struggling. And that's going to be good for Jonathan if he can get round the outside of Talbot. He's having a look, but he's run deep in there, and Talbot almost gets into the back of Neto. Needs to be careful, these drivers, because we didn't see too much contact at the first event, but it looks relatively okay so far. But we better continue to focus on the front, because Peter Dweevlar and Ryan Callan were both side by side over the line, as you can see in the split times there, but they've dropped so much time behind the ice-cold racing car of Eric Strand, and Strand is now 1.1 seconds off the back of Butcher as well. So a pretty chaotic start, but it seems to have levelled out a bit at the moment, and there may be one THR car out in front, but it's not plain sailing for them there, because you have to look back to Salo, Davis and Wiesenmuller for the next drivers. And of course we have Ice Cold Racing's Eric Strand and Walks Peter Dweevlar and Ryan Callan splitting the THR boys, which is maybe slightly surprising, because THR, with the demise of Precision and also the championship lead and the dominance of round 1, I was expecting THR to be slightly more higher up the field, you could say, in this first race. But of course THR did struggle here in the first season, so it's maybe a repeat of that, although Chris Butcher seems to have it completely sussed as Ryan Callan comes under pressure from Rasmus Salo. So why don't you talk us through this battle, Scott?
Yes, Salo does seem to have crept onto the back of Callan. I can't help feeling that is a consequence of the fact that these two walk racing cars are battling so much. There certainly aren't any team wars between Dweevlar and Callan, as they are free to race each other as long as they don't take each other off, because that is one of the golden rules of racing. You do not take your teammate out. So as much as Callan would have been desperate to get that 3rd position back, he would have had to do it very, very carefully, and he knows all too well not to put yourself into a position where you could potentially take the one person who's closest to you in this championship, which is your teammate, because he's only just the other side of the garage. And I'm not sure the walk racing would appreciate that very much. None so at least would Karamadaru Andrei Bogdan, the man who runs walk racing, who's also known affectionately as Mr. C to his compatriots throughout the TPS community. We see we've lost 2 cars. Arashuk Razvan and Luis Fernandez, both with suspension problems, and also Kostas Kaloudis has been disqualified for whatever reason. I did see he had to come into the pits a couple of times, so potentially either for some contact or maybe for some corner cutting or whatever it may have been. But we still continue our focus here on Ryan Callan in P4, who's now under serious pressure from Rasmus Salo, and that's how close he is. Looking for the front of Rasmus Salo, looking left and right, swarming all over the back of this beautiful black and cold car number 68. And life is too short to go slow. Well, that's definitely one thing you can say about this. It's definitely too short to go slow. I think Ryan's finding that out the hard way, as here comes Rasmus Salo to the outside, down towards turn 1. This very tight 180-degree left-hander. And Salo will try and make an outside pass, but he's going to try and get the switch back. And it's worked beautifully. Callan went too deep, left his braking point way too late. And now Salo has the run off the corner to run side by side with Ryan Callan down the back straight, down towards Sol corner. The long left-hander. It's all going to be about track position. Who's is on the inside? Who's got the better run? And Callan sweeps across the front of the Finns blue THR Mini. And seems as though that Callan has the run, but Salo is definitely giving Callan the hurry up. Meanwhile, quickly back at the front, I can see that Butcher, the gap is now just under a second. It's now 0.9, so Butcher doesn't seem to have it all his way this time. He ran away with the lead in race 1 in Curitiba. On this occasion, though, John, not so much this time, because Strana is keeping him honest. And of course, can't forget that Dweevlar is now starting to break away from his teammate and start to join these two at the front, leaving Callan to deal with Rasmus Salo behind. So at the moment, it seems as though it's all plain sailing at the moment for Butcher, but Strana can try and pounce if he gets close enough.
Yeah, I mean, Butcher definitely needs to be wary. I mean, we saw Strana set the fastest lap of the race earlier on, so he's definitely not just going to let Chris run away with his 3rd victory in a row, because we know how devastating that can be for the championship. If Chris builds up a big enough lead, he'll also build confidence, and with confidence comes results quite often, and this could be Chris Butcher's year, it's looking like. But look at the gap, it's closed down to 0.7 seconds. Sorry, I went the wrong way there. Not sure if Butcher made a mistake in the last sector, or he was just slow, but you can see the gap there. It's visually closer. I mean, if you look at the front from Strand's car, he is going to be incredibly hungry right now, looking at Chris Butcher's back of that Chris Butcher's Mini. Think of it as a donkey chasing a carrot. That's what it looks like at the moment from the front of Eric Strand's view. You get a fantastic sense of the driver's excitement, seeing this car not far ahead of him, just be thinking, I know I can catch this guy, I know I'm quicker than him. And at the moment, you have to say, Scott, I'm not sure if it was just a mistake, but the gap hasn't been increasing. If anything, it's been closing between the two of them. And maybe that pressure is beginning to show on Butcher, because it's down to under a second now between the front two guys. And of course, this is THR and Ice Cold. And you could say these two teams, now with the demise of Precision Motorsports, are the top 2 teams in TPS at the moment, in the Virtual Mini Challenge anyway, of course. This isn't including Spade Racing in the Virtual Carrera Cup. But at the moment, the 2 biggest teams in the Touring Pro Series are showing it here with 1st and 2nd, but this could result in a big battle, and I'm definitely looking forward to this one as we reach the halfway stage of the race. And there, as you see, is Dweevlar in 3rd. As Scott said, he is pulling away from Ryan Callan. I'm not sure if someone was running wide there, that was a bit of lag, and I think it was actually Toby Davis running very wide.
It was Davis in the background running wide in 6th position.
Yeah, and that's definitely not going to help his cause for breaking into the top 5, and you'd have to say it's been a disappointing start to the Englishman's season. Before the season, many predicted him to be champion. He looked very confident at the end of season 2, or 2013 I should say, heading into this season, and his pace seems to have dropped. He wasn't very competitive at Curitiba, and he's barely, he's struggling to hang on to 6th place here. He's pulled a bit of a gap ahead of Tveit and Riesenmüller behind him, but yeah, he's just not looking too comfortable this season. And surprisingly, Robert Riesenmüller has dropped behind Eric Tveit, and that's the guy who's reigning champion. Of course, we know how good a driver Robert is in these minis, but he also struggled at Jacarepagua, Curva in season 1. So maybe it's just a bogey track for him, and maybe he's not been able to put in as much practice as he'd like, but it's not helping him here. He's down in 8th place, and if he wants to retain his title, he's going to need to be back up where he belongs, which is at the front, and he doesn't seem to be doing that at the moment, although he's having a right good look at Tveit. He's going to try and go around the outside. Tveit defends cleanly but quite aggressively, and Riesenmüller's now going to look to the inside into the left-hander, is he? No, that's good patient driving from Robert. He's going to wait for a better chance. instead of just dive bombing right in there and causing a crash. And these two do have a bit of history, especially from round one. If you remember, Robert Wiesenmuller and Eric Tveit had an incredible battle in round one, which saw a lot of contact and quite a few penalties being given. So it's good to see Robert being more patient there as the two cars battle it out. But Scott, how do you think this one's going to turn out?
It's going to be pretty tricky because Tveit is definitely not giving Wiesenmuller an inch. Remember that Tveit is only about 15 years old, so it's incredible to think that someone as young as him is being able to hold off someone with such a stature and speed in these minis as Robert Wiesenmuller. But then Rob was saying to me earlier on this week, as I mentioned earlier on, that just after the Carrera Cup course, of which he helped myself and Danny Asby do that broadcast, that he wasn't really enjoying the Jacarepagua circuit, so he has done plenty of practice. This is not a circuit that he likes very much. But that's the same case with all the drivers out there, that they're not really finding Jacarepagua to be a circuit that they're really fond of. It's not a circuit they can really get a proper groove or a proper rhythm on as such. Wiesenmuller taking a huge lunge down towards Curva, so you can see that a little bit later on the brakes, but Wiesenmuller having to duck back in behind the slipstream of the Norwegian, losing a bit of front end grip through Curva Salt. And now through a little right-handed kink, and Dweit's run a little bit wide. That's going to now allow Wiesenmuller back into his outside. Now what kind of lines are he going to have for the next corner, which is going to be Moret and then Lagoa? And look at the switchback, because Wiesenmuller can get it up the inside into Lagoa. Now a left-hander. Dwight will now move across, and was there a bit of contact? They're certainly leaning on each other on the exit of the corner. They have towards the kink now of Box, and look in the background, because that light blue Siemens car, number 29 of George Talbot, is looming large as they go side by side again through Box corner. This is the fantastic bumper cam view from George Talbot with a grandstand seat here. Look at this. And he's now looking at the back of Wiesenmuller, trying to look to the outside of Eric Tveit through Vittoria, and now it's become a three-way scrap just like that. Onto the pit straight, they're coming. Talbot's got a great run on both of them. The double slipstream down towards turn one down the pit straight, and now Tveit's the one having to go very defensive. Wiesenmuller trying to open the door up towards the left-hander, and Wiesenmuller has the line, and will Tveit turn across? No, he gives Wiesenmuller plenty of room. That's good driving from Tveit on the exit of the corner, and Talbot's trying to get the better exit off the corner also, and somehow Tveit's got a better run, and he's still got his nose in front, so Wiesenmuller will slot back into the middle of these two, and that will only give Talbot a double slipstream down towards Sul corner, and here comes Wiesenmuller again. He's diving up the left-hand side, sideways almost in through the middle of Sul corner, and somehow he kept that car going, and he's now back up into 7th place. And of course, while all this is Julie, look at the background. You've got the likes of Neto and Allison and Osserklint and Gardner. They're all in the background. They're not too far away as they continue to scrap over 7th position. And now look at Talbot now. He feels he can have a go as Wiesenmuller runs wide on the exit of Moret. And now into Lagoa, the left-hander, which takes them back towards the pits and the last couple of corners to end lap 13. And Wiesenmuller is certainly not giving an inch in this one. On board with Talbot now, as you look once again. This is the roof cam now. What looking forwards as Tveit now is now role reversal between these two, down towards Vittoria. And again, Wiesenmuller just getting defensive, holding that inside line. Tveit's looking for the switchback, and that seems to have got in the slingshot off the corner, and it has done. Now, the outside line worked for Tveit last time as Mike Bell's in the pits at the moment, but this is the battle we're looking at between Tveit and Wiesenmuller, and Tveit with better straight line speed and the better run off Vittoria corner seems to have got the line, but again, Wiesenmuller is deeper on the brakes, and Talbot's inviting stuff up the inside, using the toe from Wiesenmuller on the exit, bit of panel bashing, and Tveit is having absolutely none of it. Talbot is saying, what on earth are you doing, Tveit? And Tveit is saying, well, stopping you from getting past, because that was rather uncalled for. And once again, Wiesenmuller holds the inside line down towards Curva Salt, last of the late breakers, and Wiesenmuller holding on for the moment. A fantastic scrap going on, relatively clean at the moment, John, but somehow they're all keeping on the track without one of them into the barriers. Great stuff. This is what we want to see from these guys in the minis, and exactly what we want to see across TPS. Great driving standards, without we need too much contact. A little is fine, as they said in Days of Thunder, rubbing's racing. When you're punting cars off the track, that simply will not do, will it, John?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that last couple of laps there between Tveit and Wiesenmuller really was a symbol of what this Touring Cars League is all about. We saw some fantastic overtaking manoeuvres. You know, Robert especially sliding down the inside into the long left-hander without managing to hit Tveit, and Tveit giving enough room to continue through the corner. And a little bit of leading is okay, but we don't like to see big punts going into corners, and that's exactly what these guys are demonstrating, a very good high standard of driving there. It did look like Talbot and Tveit got a little bit close on the exit of turn 1, but I think it was just both drivers. I mean, Tveit really had the wall on the outside of him, so he had to make the exit of the corner, and Talbot, I'm not sure, was quite aware of that, and seemed to kind of squeeze Tveit closer to the wall, so Tveit had to turn out of that one. So I'm kind of call that a bit of a racing incident. But that was a great demonstration of a fantastic battle between two top drivers, and of course those two drivers, both mini winners last season, Visa Miller Championship and Divide more than one race, as Divide has another look down the inside. So we can't really keep our eyes off this one, because this is a stunning battle as the ice cold Norwegian goes down the inside. And oh, he's run so wide, Visa Miller's run even more wide, and there's an Airstream car off, and Visa Miller sideways, he's going to collect Talbot. He does amazing to save that. A stunning save by Robert Visa Miller, and that's allowed Talbot through, and it's now going to be Talbot on the back of Divide. But let's have a look on that, on board with Talbot. It looks like Visa Miller got so sideways and did great to avoid big contact between the two drivers, and gifts Talbot 8th position and drops Robert right down into the clutches of Dan Allinson. And Dan Allinson is definitely not to be sniffed at this track. He had some stunning results in the live racers practice. I think his fastest lap was actually quicker than the pole position time last time these guys raced here. So Dan Allinson is definitely a threat in this race, and an underdog for race 2. So Robert really needs to watch his back, because he did well to save that. That could have been a lot worse for the reigning champion.
Certainly could have done. I was just looking also back at the front, because I think possibly the gap's been coming down between Butcher and Strana. In fact, he has. Look at this. Strana is right on the back bumper of race leader Chris Butcher, and he's brought Peter Dweevil with him also. As we can see in the background, Callan's got away from Salo, but this is the duel for the lead on that 16 of 20 between Chris Butcher and Eric Strana. I did see the gap was down to about 0.4 of a second, but I didn't realise it was this close, as Butcher now holds the line at the moment, with Strana taking a tighter run through Curva still on the inside, but somehow Butcher keeping that number 2 THR Red Mini in front. And so Strana using all this racecraft to try and get past a little bit of a nudge, just nibbling away at the back of that THR Red Mini. Now we're on the front bumper of the Swede Eric Strana in the red, black and white ice cold car with the big Swedish flag on the top. So you can tell it's him, and then of course his name blazing across on the windscreen, car number 71. And they're heading down towards box corner now, and Strana does have a nice run down the straights to get the toe he needs. It seems as though that, of course, Butcher has the line and the run he needs through the corners, and Butcher made the door open. He has done. He's left the door wide open, and Strana says, "Thank you very much, Chris. I'll have that." But Butcher may have planned it for a switchback, and I think it might have worked, because look at this. He's coming back on the outside, so Strana has the lead, but for how much longer? Side by side, almost a dead heat across the line, and the timing being showed Butcher in front, but it doesn't look like that. Side by side into the braking zone for the hairpin, and Strana looks as though he's made the move stick, so Strana is into the lead then here at Jacarepagua in race 1. And look at Dweevil through all this battling. Hardly these two in front have fought each other. The easier it's been for Dweevil to just sail up onto the back of them, and that could become, with 3 laps to go, a 3-way fight for the lead here in the first race. Butcher looking to the inside, and Curva Soul can't quite get the move done, as Strana moves across and chops across the front of the THR Red Mini and prevents another attack. So Butcher probably just sit back here, and just try and bide his time to see if he can possibly pressure Strana into a mistake, force him to run wide, take the defensive line, try and get a switchback somewhere, if he can find any kind of advantage that he can take. But now, of course, look at this. Strana's pulling away slightly, and here comes Peter Dweevil and car number 3, the Walk Racing Machine. So Chris Butcher has now had his fortunes changed from the lead to second place, and potentially he could even drop to third if he's not too careful. But John, just quickly on that one, the move into the final corner a couple of laps ago, Butcher's left the door wide open. Was he planning a switchback, or was that simply just a lapse in concentration?
It was a really strange one, I think, as it looks like we're going to see a repeat of the move, but Butcher wiser on this one. Manages to defend the inside line and holds it around the corner, but I'm really difficult to tell with that one, because I don't think Butcher was aiming for the cutback, because there'd be no reason to let Strana pass in the first place. He might as well just defend the inside line and hang him out to dry on the exit. It just looked like Chris left the door open. I'm not sure if he knew how close Strana was, but maybe he just underestimated the distance. He must have known he was there from the previous laps. As there goes Dweevil on the inside. He does really well there to get on the brakes and avoid contact. That's fantastic driving from Dweevil to avoid contact there, and it means Chris Butcher holds on to the position. So car 2 is in second place, and car 3 remains in third. Of course, Dweevil season 2012 virtual mini champion, I should say. So it's Dweevil is winning the battle of the previous champions at the moment in third place. Of course, Robert Wiesenmuller down in 9th. That's like, oh, Dweevil got a bit sideways there. Might have cost him a little bit of time. But it's great to see 3 different teams having a great battle out front in great formation. And we only have 3 laps to go. These 20 laps absolutely fly by at this Jacarepagua circuit. Some fantastic racing being provided, and definitely cleaner than we saw at Curva. And that is a stunning demonstration of driving standards there. And well done to all these guys for keeping it nice and clean, because of course it is still exciting, no matter how clean the racing is. Dweevlar does seem to be struggling a little bit. He's dropped 1.3 seconds to Strad, but he's by no means out of it. And the other thing we saw there, Scott, is Butcher runs a bit wide into the hairpin. Another thing we saw is, as you've said on many broadcasts before, I know you're famous for it, but as soon as the two guys out front start battling, it means the guy in third place, or the third in line, is just going to close the gap so quickly, and they're going to be on it in a flash. And I know that's something you always pick up on, and it was definitely an extreme case of it there. Butcher and Strand got into an epic dogfight, and Dweevlar just cruised up to the back of them, and he had a good shot at even taking second place, maybe even taking the lead. But Eric Strand is out front for Ice Cold Racing, and could this be the launch of their season-winning campaign? We never know. I guess we'll find out in the coming weeks. But as I say, it's Strand from Butcher, Dweevlar in third, then a big gap back to Ryan Cowan in fourth, Rasmus Salo doing a silent but solid job in fifth, Toby Davis in sixth, with George Talbot a very respectful seventh, Robert Wiesenmuller at eighth, and he's actually got back past Tveit, so Tveit's obviously made a mistake. And it's Miguel Neto, Tveit in 9th, Miguel Neto in 10th, and then the battle for 11th position is between Ockercliffe and Dan Allenson. And as much as I'd love to watch that fantastic battle, as Allenson forces his way up the inside there, as much as I'd love to watch that battle, I'm afraid we're going to have to concentrate on the leaders. And Scott, why don't you take us through the last couple of laps of this race?
Certainly will, and watching here is Dweevlar's right onto the back bumper of Butcher's, now head on towards the final corner for most of the time. Dweevlar sweeps to the inside, can he get a move done? He's going to try and force the issue, but he can't quite get the move sorted because Butcher holds the inside line. They head onto the pit straight to start the fire. Is that Callan off in the background? Is that Callan off in the background? It is Callan off in the background. Callan has gone off. Now, was there contact or did he now break himself? Let's have a look. Into the final corner. I thought there was a car going off quite wide.
Way too
fast. He
just
outbraked himself and went straight off across the gravel, and that's given Rasmus Salo a free pass into P4. That's pretty incredible indeed. So Callan's dropped the spot at the end of the penultimate lap, but down the back straight for the final time they come. And Strana, I think, for the moment, unless he makes a mistake for the rest of his lap, seems to have got it sorted. It's now Butcher's having to worry more about Dweevlar and defending his second place than challenging Strana for the lead. And we look back now from the race leader, Eric Strana, as they head through the right-hander and now towards the next couple of left-handers on this circuit. Of course, it's a mostly anti-clockwise track. And Strana really, as we've said a couple of times already, has been one of the form men here in TPS. He was very strong at the end of the season in both the Touring Pro Series, Tom the Cole Cleos, and also the Virtual V8 Supercars. And it seems as though also he had a very strong start, also it's a very strong pace by being fastest in the pre-qualifying for the Virtual Carreras. And also he's been pretty prominent here in the minis, and after 2 podiums in race number in Curitiba, looks like he'll hold on probably just about for this first race here in Jacarepagua into the final corner for the last time. He took the lead midway through the race and has stayed there despite challenges from Butcher and Dweevlar. Eric Strana opened his account in the Virtual Mini Challenge with a win from Chris Butcher in second and Dweevlar in third. And that's, look at that, 3 cars separated by just over a second. Rasmus Salo steals 4th just before the end of the last lap from Ryan Callan, who lost out in 5th. Davis 6th. Wiesenmuller has got ahead of George Talbot in the last couple of laps in 7th and 8th, with Eric Tveit 9th and Miguel Neto rounding out the top 10. Allenson finishes 11th, Jonathan Ockercliffe is 12th, Reese Gardner 13th with Jimmy Hughes 14th, Javier Di Carvalho 15th, Thomas Madazewski 16th, Ethan Bass 17th. We now watch Pedro Amaral, who had a very downcast racer in 18th, very off the pace indeed. And Lewis McGlade, P19, what a drive for him. He should definitely be happy with that. That's a great job. As now P20, the 2 Airstream cars are across the line, and Matt Richards rounds out the top 20 just ahead of Scott Sobig, and the rest of the field coming across the line, including, it looks to me, Mike Bell having some rather tricky times there and finishing outside the top 20 in this first race. So there are the results. Eric Strana wins from Chris Butcher in second and Peter Dweevlar in third. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be back with all the fallout of race 1 and then qualifying, warm-up and race 2 here from Jacarepagua. Stay tuned.
Inside SimRacing.tv, the fastest show on the internet. Sim racing news and reviews since 2007, with new shows every week.
And welcome back to live coverage of round 2 of the Virtual Mini Challenge here, hosted by TouringProSeries.com. And if you want to tell us what you thought about that race, you can contact us on one of our very many channels via social media. Of course, you can catch up on the Facebook page. It's facebook.com/TouringProSeries. If you want to tweet us, you can do twitter.com/Touring_Pro or just @Touring_Pro. And also, if you want to watch all these broadcasts live back, including extended highlights as well, which are put together by Ryan Callan himself, you can subscribe to the channel, youtube.com/TouringProSeries. Every single broadcast is uploaded straight to the YouTube page, just straight after the race. Now then, just recap for those who are just joining us. It was actually Eric Strana, sorry, force of habit after the minis. It was Eric Strana who took the victory in race 1 here at Jacarepagua, from Chris Butcher in second and Peter Duivlar in third. Other notable performances, Rasmus Salo took 4th just before the start of the final lap after Ryan Callan ran a little bit too deep into the final corner. And he had to lose out on 4th position, which went to Rasmus Salo, of course. There were some fast and frantic battles going on between George Talbot, Robert Wiesenmuller, and also Eric Tveit as well. So some plenty going down. But I think it's safe to say, John, that on the most part, we saw something which I think, especially Ryan and a lot of the admins were hoping for, and that was a lot more cleaner racing, because we saw quite a lot of bumping and bashing and the typical touring car panel beating that we saw in the first couple of races in round 1 at Curitiba. But this time around, much more cleaner, much more sensible, and that's exactly what we like to see. That's a great example of the kind of racing which kind of TPS should pride itself on and should take credit for.
And precisely, Scott. I mean, it's been one of the major talking points since the Winter Series came along. First rounds of championships have been quite, I'm not sure about the best way of describing, over exuberant in many cases, and there's been quite a few incidents across the board. And we are hoping in TPS to maybe just slightly calm down with the incidents a bit and have some cleaner racing. But I mean, those guys proved that they can do it right there. I mean, even in the minis, I mean, this is the series where Carnage is his middle name. You know, it could quite easily be called the Virtual Carnage Challenge, and it would still make perfect sense. But in that race, you know, even these younger drivers, you know, in this feeder series, you know, looking to get into the likes of the Carrera Cup and such like that, VSS as well. Even the drivers in this series, and also, of course, the big names in this series that are looking to try and, you know, take a championship in these front-wheel drive minis, put on a fantastic show there. I mean, we saw Eric Tveit and Robert Wiesenmuller, 2 of the men that have been kind of in the middle of some of the arguments about the driving standards after a pretty hectic race in the minis last week, or 2 weeks ago, I should say, at Curitiba. Both demonstrated how high quality drivers they are, and the driving standards there were incredible. We saw no real incidents between them. We saw fantastic overtaking across the board, so very well done to the drivers there, because they've definitely seemed to have calmed it down from last week. And that's what Touring Pro Series is all about, Scott. It's touring car racing. Of course, there's going to be a few wee scrapes and bumps along the way, but when things are clean and there's still fantastic racing, that's exactly what you want to see, and that was a fantastic demonstration of that. But Scott, why don't you take us through, remind everyone what the next events coming up in the Touring Pro Series are?
I'll be delighted to. So the next races you'll be seeing on Touring Pro Series will be this coming Saturday. It is round 2 of the 2014 Virtual Supertech Series, live broadcast from the Circuito Jerez de la Frontera. Apologies for no broadcast for the first race at Curitiba, but we are going to get that sorted for the second round, and hopefully we'll see some more racing up at the front. Of course, no Precision Motorsports in this championship either, because of course we've already explained they have pulled out. But of course we won't dwell on that, because of course that is something for another day at least. Because of course, not at least because because Precision Motorsports do not race in virtual minis, so we won't gloss on it too much. The next racing after that will be the following Wednesday, the next round, second round of the awesome Virtual Touring Masters, gone on the Group A touring cars, and we've said hello to the magnificent, snorting, fire-breathing leviathans that are the Group 5 DRM race cars, such as the Ford Zaxby Capri, the BMW M1 Pro car, the Porsche 935, and the Lancia Beta Turbo Monte Carlo Coupe, and of course the Toyota Celica as well. Some fantastic machines. Their second round is going to be at Salzburgring on the Wednesday, and then also after that, the following Saturday on that week is going to be the next round of the Virtual Carrera Cup, and that's going to be at Lebanon in France. So after a couple of races dominated by Spade Racing, 1 win for Jesper Tolberg and 1 for Marius Gollenbeck, they were looking to continue their explosive start to their life as a team in Touring Pro Series, with hopefully 2 more wins for them in Lebanon. But of course, the likes of Ice Cold and THR will be looking to try and push on and get themselves a great victory. So, moving on to race 2 then, and we are in qualifying right now. Qualifying has just got underway. We're now about 15 seconds into the 10-minute session, and based off what we saw in race 1 and the first qualifying session, would you say we're going to see more of the status quo in race 1 in this second qualifying session, John? Do you think we'll see a few more surprises like George Talbot possibly? Because we know George Talbot is very prominent in touring cars. He ran his own touring car championship, which was ran his own league, in fact, the Sim Racing Online league. It ran various championships, including a touring car championship, and he was very, very prominent in that. And he's someone who is very, very deadly behind the wheel of either a front or rear-wheel drive touring car. So do we think that possibly George could spring a surprise in this qualifying session? Maybe he was 6th in qualifying for race 1. Could he get higher up the grid this time?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a complete lottery, but he's one of many drivers with the potential to spring a surprise. I mean, as you said, George was incredibly good in the Sim Racing Online Touring Car Championship that I took part in, and Scott was commentating on, so we both had involvement in that, and he proved to us there and then how much of a quality sim racer he is, and he's now trying to prove his worth in the TouringProSeries, which most would argue that it is the elite touring car league in the sim racing world right now, and he's trying to prove his worth. He's trying to show that he is definitely one to be announced as one of the top touring car drivers in sim racing. And I think hopefully leading on from this, if Talbot can continue to be successful in the virtual mini challenge, he can go on to be successful in other series that TPS have got to offer, such as the Virtual Carrera Cup or likes, and maybe next season he could join that, as we see a couple of THR cars off in turn 1. But we'll continue to ride on course with George Talbot now for the first lap. Another couple of names, though, just to watch out for in this qualifying session. I did mention him slightly in the first race, but Dan Allenson looked unbelievably quick in practice before the qualifying session, and throughout the week he's been right on the pace. So I think he's definitely one who could spring a surprise. Jonathan Ockercliffe looked pretty quick in race 1, despite him telling me he was feeling pretty not very confident about this event, but he seemed relatively quick. There was a couple of other guys that were looking quick. One man who maybe wasn't looking quite as good this week as he was last was Luis Fernandez. Of course, he sprung his Smile-powered car onto the front couple of rows at Curitiba, but unfortunately retired from race 1, and he will be looking to bounce back from that. Hopefully, with Louis, we saw more than once before that he's capable of coming from absolutely nowhere in race 1 and flinging it on the front row in race 2. And the man I was about to mention, Peter de Weevelaar, sets the provisional fastest time in at 1:23.727, and that's a benchmark there for the walk racing driver. Nato goes second on a 24.0, and Amaral goes third, also on a 24.0. Rasmus Salud on a 23.809. That's a good lap from him. And Talbot's going to cross the line now. What lap time's he going to do? It looks okay, and he's gone to 4th, a 1:23.930. So that's a good lap from him, as Eric Strand also slots into 2nd place. So if we have a look at some of the guys at the moment, this is the man who is on pace, Peter de Weevelaar. And I think if Peter de Weevelaar doesn't pick up a pole position, or at least a top 2 in this next race, I think he's going to start seriously doubting whether he's still got what it takes to win this championship, because as we know, this is a form track of de Weevelaar. He's won the only previous virtual mini races at this circuit, and he brought it to the front 2 guys in the last race, but when push came to shove, he dropped off slightly and wasn't able to make a move on Butcher or Eric Strada, who ended up winning. So I'm not sure about de Weevelaar at the moment. I think he had a lot of pre-season hype going on about him, and he is an incredible driver, as we know, and he's definitely one who is a silent killer, if you like. He's always going to be there to pick up pieces of other people's mistakes, and the man who's leading the championship, for example, Chris Butcher, is a man who does quite often make mistakes, and de Weevelaar could be there to capitalise on it. And we've seen here it's a good first qualifying lap, but it's all about whether he can maintain that for the race and actually get a pole position, and once he gets a win, hopefully that will kickstart his campaign.
Fingers crossed. We want to look back on George Talbot, because he is actually on a personal best at the moment in Sector 2. He was quick in Sector 1, and this time could potentially put him onto the front row if he can continue on the form he's on across the line. He actually lost a bit of time in the final sector and continues 4th at 1:24.009 on that one. Ryan Callan then, currently 12th quickest, 1:24.183, but of course he stuck that car on the front row, and can he do it once again as he heads onto the pit straight to finish his lap? So here comes Ryan Callan up towards the stripe, and where does this lap put him on the grid? Leaves him 11th. He only improves 1 place to 1:24.125. And look at some other guys. Dan Allison up in P7. Robert Beesimore, the reigning champion, down in P8. But he is actually up in Sector 1 by almost a tenth of a second. 86 hundredths to be exact. And into the. I'm trying to look at the corner names now because I keep forgetting them off by heart. There we go. It's Moret and then Lagoa, which are the two left-handers, and then you have this kind of short squirt down towards the end of the second sector, and he's up by a tenth of our personal best. So this will put him on roughly around, I would have guessed, a 123.9 if he can carry it off, unless he loses too much time. You can see in the back, but just behind him, I believe that's Rasmus Salo behind him, who is gaining a tow down the back straight from his sister teammates. And onto the pit straight, here comes Wiesmuller. So can he do anything and have found anything in this last sector with relatively clean air? Across the stripe he comes, and Wiesmuller puts himself up to P3. He has, look at that, found a lot of time in the final sector. Found himself another tenth or so, so Wiesmuller goes to third. A much better qualifying performance so far than what he managed for race one, as we've got two cars up on the grass. And I was trying to look at who they were. I think that must have been Dan Allison and his teammate. Yes, it was, because they were both letting the
and
other...
Ethan Bass, yeah.
Ethan Bass, and they were both letting one of the THR orange cars past, and heading into the final couple of corners. There you go. Callan's gone now to P6, a quarter of a second off the fastest time. She's still held by Peter Dweebler, but there is half a tenth in it between Dweebler and Strana for pole position, with Wiesmuller a further 0.08 back behind Strana. So looking very fast and furious, especially at the top four, as Talbot's now setting a personal best in Sector 1. And looking for more time in Sector 2, which is pretty tricky. And Davis is now up by 12,000 of a second and setting a purple Sector 1. But it seems to be that on straight line speed alone, the run out of the... If you can get a decent run out of the first corner, John, it's good to get you a quick first sector, especially if you've got a tow, help of a tow with a car or two in front. But in second sector, as you can see there with Talbot, if you get stuck behind a car and stuck in the dirty air, or just can't get it hooked up in the middle sector of the back, where you've got the most technical sections of this Curva Sole out of Jacarepagua, it can lose you quite a bit of time, as you saw there, because it seems to be Talbot just can't seem to find the ultimate pace to get himself a bit higher up the grid. He is now currently 5th, and he'll start alongside Ryan Callan should the session end now. But so far, it seems as though that if you can't hook up the middle sector, then really the lap is almost gone.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the first sector is slightly less important. You know, of course, there's only one hairpin, and then down the backstretch. So the run out of the hairpin is obviously important, but we see a lot of drivers going purple through there. And as you were saying, the most important corner of the track is undoubtedly turn 2, which is Seoul. And that's, I think, where all the time can be won and lost. It's this long left-hander. We'll write it on board, actually, with Miguel Neto, so you can see what corner we're talking about here. So he heads down the back stretch, and at this point, no matter where you are in the lap, this corner is so difficult to get right. You see the guy in front of him locks up. I'm not sure quite who that was. Might be a nice cold car. But, yeah, Miguel Neto seemed to nail it there. That was very nice from him. But that's the corner that makes a big difference. If you can get a very nice run through there, it's going to make a big difference to your lap. And Miguel Neto, he was a 10th off in the first sector, so let's see where this puts him on the second. I do have to say, though, that Seoul corner did look very clean from Neto. I'm not sure how fast it was, but it definitely was clean. And clean is the first step to going fast, and you can ask any of the top drivers that. Being smooth, especially in these minis, being smooth is one of the most important things. And Neto was actually only a 10th off. I don't know if he got held up there. He definitely had a car in his way, and that's really a shame. I think the driver in front of him, if he was on a quick lap, then fair enough, he has the right to continue it. But that's a real shame for Neto, because Neto was on a flyer there. He was only a 10th off Dweebelaar, and that could have elevated him up to at least 5th position in the standings if he'd had a decent last sector. So real shame for Neto. Instead, he's going to cross the line and probably not improve, and that's gutting for him. And it was just a shame because the driver in front had a right to stay there because he wasn't a flying lap as well. And if he wasn't, I'm sure there'll be some serious words said about that. But here is Tveit, the man in 7th for Ice Cold Racing. 6th position, Ryan Callan for Walk Racing, who's about to start his final flying lap. In 5th is George Talbot, who's not gone out, so Talbot will not improve at his 23.906. In 4th place is Rasmus Salo, and he is 100th up through, I believe that's Sector 1. And of course, as we were saying, Sector 1 is slightly less important than others, but I do believe he will get another lap in after this flyer, so this could be great timing for Rasmus. If he gets a good lap in here, he's still probably going to have one more lap to go in this session. I'm just trying to work out, and I think, yes, he definitely will, as long as he does a lap time under 25, but it's going to be cutting it very fine for Rasmus Salo, as Tveit goes purple in Sector 1 as well. But of course, that's not to be too excited about, as Rasmus Salo is only a 10th down after the first sector, so that's not really going to improve him as things stand. If he can find a bit of time, he might be able to jump Strane or Wiesenmuller because they're not far ahead of him. But let's see what happens as he comes around the final corner. It's Rasmus Salo for THR Blue. I don't think this is going to improve on his 123.809, but commentators have been proven wrong many times. and it doesn't. It's a 24.036, so on that occasion, Rasmus doesn't improve. As to Veit, I believe he's through Sector 2 now, and he's still purple.
He is definitely indeed. He's managed to get a benefit of a tow down the straights from teammate Eric Strana, so hopefully he's not holding him up too much through this final corner of Vitoria onto the pit straight. Can Eric de Veit possibly, with the aid of a tow from teammate Strana, get himself onto the front row? Answer to that question is yes, he can. Look at that, 123.719, and a fantastic effort. So that means now Ice Cold Racing, it looks as though unless anyone else can go faster, are going to start with a front row lockout in race 2. Incredible stuff from Eric de Veit to get himself onto the front row. Peter Dweevelaar is currently out there with setting one final lap. Is there anything he can do in these sectors to try and close in a bit more? Answer to that is I'm not quite sure. He's down by almost 3/4 of a tenth. Davis is up by almost a tenth of a second in Sector 1, so he's looking pretty racy also. Rasmus Salo, I think, has finished his lap, so I'm not sure if he'll get one more. If he is on one more, I don't know. But Peter Dweevelaar is coming round the final corner. Can he find anything in this final sector? The launch of the final corner is going to be oh so important. He uses all the curb on the exit and sprints to the line, hugs towards the pit walls, trying to get the shortest run towards it, crosses the line and has to settle for third. 128.898, couldn't improve on his time. And Davis, I think, has possibly aborted his lap, I think. Unless he's still out there. Is he still out there? Yes, he is. So Davis, I couldn't see if I think he must have lost time in that sector, but here he comes onto the pit straight. Can Toby Davis get himself up higher than 10th on the grid? And the answer to that, I'm not sure if he will. No, he stays 10th. 124.141. He's a 10th down on his personal best time in the session. So the clock has gone to 0. Checking flag is out, and we have a grid. And how about that for Ice Cold Racing? A front row lockout for race 2. We'll find out more and go through the whole grid in its entirety after these messages from ISR TV. So stay tuned. We'll be back in 2.
Inside SimRacing.tv, the fastest show on the internet. Sim racing news and reviews since 2007, with new shows every week.
And welcome back to live coverage of round 2, of race 2 of the weekend here at Jacarepagua, which is of course the second meeting for the 2014 Touring Pro Series Virtual Mini Challenge here at the Jacarepagua circuit in Rio de Janeiro, officially named the Autodromo Internacional Nelson Piquet. Of course, the circuit doesn't exist anymore in real life because it was demolished last year in order to become the site for the Olympic Park when Rio hosts the 2016 Summer Games. We're still racing it here, at least in the virtual version, and we're going to go through the grid very briefly as to how things look for the grid for race 2 then. And amazingly, it's an ice-cold 1-2. It's going to be Eric Strana will start on pole position. Amazingly, set his quickest lap time the lap before Eric de Veit, his teammate, popped his number 83 Ice Cold Racing car onto the grid, and there are the two cars that will start on the front row. Car number 83, the blue and black and white car in the front foreground there is Eric de Veit with the Norwegian flag on the top, and of course the red, black and white car with the Swedish flag on the top is of course Eric Strana, and he will start on pole with Eric de Veit on second. Peter Dweevelaar will start third, with Robert Wiesemuller in fourth as well, so he's actually out-qualified Chris Butcher, who's outside the top 10, rather strangely. Rasmus Salo will start fifth, with George Talbot once again lining up on row 3, on the inside of row 3 and 6th. Dan Allison, great effort to qualify 7th ahead of Ryan Callan, who couldn't match his front row slot from race 1, with Miguel Neto 9th and Toby Davis rounding out the top 10. Then we have Chris Butcher, who started on pole, but has to start from just outside the top 10 and 11th for this second race. Then Malazewski 12th, Oscar Clint 13th, Reese Gardner 14th, Javier de Carvalho 15th, and Pedro Amaral 16th. And if we continue to scroll through the order, it's P17 for Ethan Bass, P18 for Lewis McBlade, P19 for Luis Fernandez, and then Jimmy Hughes, Arashuk, Razvan, Scott Sovic, Mike Bell, Matt Richards, Kostas Kaludis, Ben Hackerson, David Nannon, and Ben Richards rounds out the 28th car field. And John, as I just mentioned, of course, it's intriguing that what's good, interesting to see was that it was actually great teamwork from both the ice cold guys, the Strana and de Veit, to help them set those fastest laps that they both set. And the result of that is that the great teamwork has seen them take a front row lockout, which is something that we saw in race 2 from THR. So looks as though that Ice Cold effectively said anything that you can do, THR, we can do, and just a little bit better. So, seems as though that these guys possibly could be favourites for the win, unless the likes of Dweevil and Vismula can get a cracking start and maybe beat them down towards turn 1, if not get a great run to set them up for a pass into turn 2 on the first lap.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult for them to pass into turn 1, but yeah, just to comment on that stunning teamwork from the two Ice Cold guys. As you saw there, Tveit was in the slipstream of Eric Strand, and I assume Strand might have been on an outlap or something like that, but they were actually both on hot laps, and Tveit went second, but Strand, the man who was giving Eric the draft, or giving the other Eric the draft, was actually the guy who took pole position on a 0.6, so it was an incredible lap from race 1 winner, Eric Strand, looking to really make his mark on the circuit, and that was just a stunning lap from him and from Ice Cold. Fantastic teamwork to have the guts to start their laps right beside each other and finish them just as close as they were at the start and lock out the front row. Dweevil would not have had a clue what hit him, and especially THR as well, because of course in this qualifying session they've been beaten by Ice Cold and they've been beaten by Walk Racing. Of course, Ryan Callan not quite as good in qualifying 2 as he was in qualifying 1. He was incredibly impressive in the first race to manage to hold on for a long time, but was susceptible to some fantastic overtaking manoeuvres from the likes of Wiesenmuller, Strand, and a few others that I can't remember at the moment. Also, Dweevil made his way past Callan, so yeah, some great racing by him, and I'm sure he'd be delighted with his race 1 and just looking to enjoy race 2 from 8th on the grid. But we only have 10 seconds left to warm up, and that will be rounding off the final session before our final race of this Jacarepagua circuit. So please don't go anywhere, because race 2 is about to begin. And as Scott said, we have the Ice Cold guys on the front row lockout with Dweevil starting 3rd, and I think it was Rasmus Salo actually starting 4th, Robert Wiesenmuller was 4th ahead of Rasmus Salo. So Scott, I'm going to ask you for your predictions for this race. Who do you think is going to take this one?
I think possibly, if he's starting on pole and get a good enough start, he was quick enough to catch Butcher, despite not starting on the front row. I think possibly, if he can get a clean start and try and break away, in similar fashion to what Butcher did in race 1 at Curitiba, I think possibly this could be Tveit's to lose, Stranas to lose from pole, and maybe Tveit possibly could play the backup and possibly be the kind of the stopgap in for the rest of the field, which might allow Strana to pull away, unless Tveit can get a better start from the inside of the front row. But we'll have to wait and see, because in sim racing you don't really get a dirty side of the track. It's all kind of basically, it doesn't really matter which side you start on the grid. If you can get the better launch, then you can take advantage of the inside line and therefore the better run into the first corner. So I think possibly Strana could take this from pole if he's sensible about it. What about you, John? How do you see this one playing out?
I think the good thing about Eric Strana is he's definitely a young man, but he's got a very cool head on young shoulders, as they say, and he will be really determined, I think, to take this win and show Chris Butcher that he's not the only guy that can take a double win in this series, and he's not the only championship contender. And Strand hasn't won a TPS championship. He's the man in form, as we've said many a times recently, and he's really brought Ice Cold forward along, and he's dragged Eric Tveit, the team boss, along with him, it looks like. And both of those guys have obviously worked hard in practice, and they've nailed their qualifying. And I think Tveit will act as a buffer early on for Strand, because I don't believe you can get that big an advantage at the start in the minis. I don't think there's a big range, if that makes sense. If you muck up the start, you're not going to lose too much time. And Strand will be delighted that he's got Tveit right behind him to act as a bit of a buffer from, of course, the very menacing, black, beautifully painted, you have to say, Walk Racing car of Peter Dweevil, and then, of course, the THR red car of Robert Wiesenmuller. So it could be interesting. I think it could work out as a bit of a team battle, in terms of it could be Ice Cold versus each individual driver, and a couple of people impressive in that session as well. Rasmus Salo could be there to help Robert Wiesenmuller in this one. I'm not sure if he has quite enough pace. George Talbot, also another man who's done a great qualifying session, and Dan Allenson, definitely meant to watch in this one, so it could go anyway.
I'm not sure if I was seeing things, but I'm pretty sure I might have maybe seen Chris Butcher running wide halfway through this warm-up lap, just in the background, but he seemed to have dropped back behind Jonathan Osserklimp, but he seems to have done it now. In fact, he's now back behind Toby. In fact, he's not behind Toby Davis at the moment. He must have gone wide at some point. I think he is now back behind Toby Davis, at least I think. Depending on where
he's
Toby
in front of him
is
at the moment. I'm not sure if he's meant to be like that.
That's not. Actually, where is Toby? Toby starting?
Oh, Toby's in the pit lane.
Toby will start from the pits. That's Thomas Madazeski in the second THR orange car that will start behind him. But
is that Butcher running into? I think Butcher just ran into NATO on the lap. I'm pretty sure he did. And look, everyone's
maybe he may have done, but don't exactly want damage just before you're about to start, but look at how neatly these cars are gridding up and so quickly also. This is exactly what we like to see. Is that one car out of position? I think it is.
And we're also missing,
Well,
of course, we're missing Toby Davis.
Now, who is that parked? There's a car parked in the middle of one of the grid slots. Now, who is that? And it looks like one of the Smile Power cars, I think, because I can't tell who that is. He's not in position. And the rest of the field will be saying, well, come on, we want to get this race started. And, of course, there is one car who is holding it all up. So we need to see maybe we can find out who that is, because he's not in position. And, of course, unless all cars are in position, they cannot put the lights on to start the race.
It's Luis Fernandez.
It's Luis Fernandez. So Fernandez needs to find his grid slot and quick. Maybe there's a mix-up here. Or, I'm not quite sure what's going on, because maybe he thinks he's supposed to be in that slot. He's now lagged back into it. So I think now he might be even ready to start this race. He's now in that slot, I think. Or either that or someone's been pushed out wide, but we'll have to wait and see how this all plays out. Anyway, lights out and away we go for the second race here at Jacarepagua. Decent start from Eric Strana off the line. Tveit will hold the inside line and defend, possibly from the rest of the pack behind. They charge into turn one for the first time. Strana holds the lead with Drivar trying to go around the outside of Tveit on the exit of the opening hairpin, and also back straight they go for the first time. And so Strana holds it from Tveit. A nice cold 1-2, perfect start for them as they would have wanted. Drivar in the slipstream in third place, ahead of Visa Muller in fourth. And Salo, Talbot, Allison trying to dart out, and that's Callan trying to attack already on the back of NATO for P8 as they head into Curva for the first time, and they're going to go side by side already, and Callan has got the move done, so he's back into P8. Looks like he may have lost a spot off the start, as Chris Butcher is still in P10, but chasing after Miguel Neto, so Butcher is in the top 10 at least, but he's got a hell of a lot of work to do to get past these mobile chicanes. And we're now watching Rasmus Salo looking at the back of his teammate Robert Wiesmuller, the reigning champion, as is that Tveit and Drivar making contact. I think it is, as Tveit is now been pushed wide, I think, and Wiesmuller's there also. And Wiesmuller's actually got himself up the inside of Drivar, up towards the box corner. I think there was a bit of lag in the background, causing a car to go out wide, but Strana now has the lead and is trying to break away already, as now Drivar and Wiesmuller going toe-to-toe, with Salo also chucking himself into the mix as well, in P5, looking back now from Robert Wiesmuller, looking back at, that's Josh Talbot. Talbot forcing his way up the inside of Rasmus Salo, giving him a nudge through the final corner, and they're going to go parallel down the pit straight as they head across the line for the first time. It is Strana who leads from Tveit, Wiesmuller and Drivar, and Salo defending for his life from Talbot, who's now
there goes
Allenson. Dan Allenson with a fantastic pass up the inside, and look at Callan also. Callan gives him the hip and shoulder on the exit of turn one. Take that, Talbot, and shoves him out wide. And now look at Miguel Neto getting a run also. So it's quite ironic that Ryan Callan preaches about better driving standards. He's just done that to George Talbot. I'm not quite sure what that was all about, but anyway, Neto up the inside of Talbot trying to close the door. I think there was a bit of contact, and Butcher will almost get himself involved as well, as also Thomas Matazeski looks on as well, just behind. So fast and frantic once again, these minis, as they head on to the middle part of the second lap of this second race. And Callan is already giving pressure to Allenson as they head on towards the Lagoa corner. And so far then, John, Strana's held the lead, and Tveit's held on to second place, but a change for third, and Wiesmuller will want to capitalise on the fact that Butcher's down in the pack, has got a lot of work to do, but if Wiesmuller can dispatch the Tveit and then start chasing after Strana, there's no reason why Wiesmuller couldn't potentially take his first win of the season and his third podium to boot as well.
Yeah, he definitely has the background to go with being able to win races in the series. And speaking of winning races, there he goes down the inside of Tveit. I think there's contact there, and there's more contact on the exit. These guys really do need to calm it down a bit. Of course, these are the two drivers that showed us fantastic standards of driving in the last race. Let's hope that one doesn't deteriorate as the pressure increases. And speaking of pressure, look at Dwivelar right over the back.
Salo.
Robert Wiesmuller, and Salo's going to make it effectively 4 wide, or 2 by 2, as they head into turn 1 as a very fast racing version of Noah's Ark. And Robert Wiesmuller manages to hold on to fourth. He has been passed by Dwivelar, and Tveit is now under real pressure from the returning walk racing driver as Dwivelar darts to the outside of the track. You can just see him in the corner there, and he's going to try and get the cut back. Look at Wiesmuller. Oh, he goes in so fast sideways for the second race in a row, and that's really going to cost him time.
Is that Callan off in the background again?
Oh, it is.
He's back. It's off again. What's he doing? Ryan Callan. Now, you may be TPS admin, but that's pushing it a little bit, isn't it? I think
let's see how he rejoins. As long as he gives all the positions back, he should be okay. He might get a drive-through actually via the game for that, because that was a big cut. I think he was doing a Kimi Räikkönen there.
How ironic is that? So I think you'll find the black stuff, Ryan, not the green stuff, and not the runoff areas on the exit either. So come on, you should know better than that, Ryan. Anyway, back to the front. Strana has a 1.5 second lead from this seething mob behind him of BMW engine minis. Down towards the final corner they come for the third time. And we've still got, of course, another 16 or 17 odd laps of racing in this second race here at Jacarepagua. Looking forwards now from Robert Wiesenmuller, looking at the Peter Dweevelaar, I should say, sorry, from Eric Tveit. And
so there's an incident with
the
Miguel Neto further back. Look at this.
Nato has got into the pits. No, he's got. Well, he looks to go straight into the pits and he's done a David Coulthard, straight into the barriers and on the pit entry. So he hasn't really done himself any favours there, Pedro, and that's an early exit for him. So,
sorry, Miguel Neto that was. Sorry,
Miguel Neto. So early bar for Miguel, I think, as we head towards Curva Sur once again on lap 4, looking at number 83, Eric Tveit, the ice cold racing car with the STR logo on the side, which stand for Save the Ring, because of course the Nürburgring in real life is under a few troubles, and Ice Cold Racing are only too happy to place their support for the campaign that's going on to try and save the legendary Nordschleife from becoming extinct as a racetrack altogether, because many racetracks fall by the wayside throughout the years, including this one, of course, at Jacarepagua. I've now watched Salo and Dan Allison, who's having a fantastic run in this second race so far, running rather high up in the top 10 and trying to challenge for a top 5 slot here. Currently running in P6. Great performance so far from Dan in car number 51, pressuring car number 21 here. Of course, the black, grey and bright blue THR Mini of the Finn Rasmus Salo, who only recently joined THR near the end of the Summer Championships, and has seriously impressed since he's joined what is arguably the top team in TouringProSeries. And Allison trying to switch and pull off a bit of a dummy down towards turn 1, but Salo holds that car in the middle of the track to try and make this BMW Mini as wide as possible, and he has been successful because he has held off Dan Allison and prevented him from getting past into 5th position. And Callan's now back in 7th place after his earlier excursion across the grass. And Chris Butcher's up to 8th now after starting 11th. George Talbott's been shuffled back down to 9th after his early shenanigans. And Thomas Mataszewski rounds out the top 10. But he's coming under attack from Reece Gardner, the high Smile Power racing cars, with Ethan Bass in P12, he is, of course, the teammate of the man in 6th, Dan Allison. So there's a long snake of cars going on as they head into the middle part of the course. There's a couple of cars run wide. That was Carvalho and Bass. But they do find the black stuff again very, very quickly. And they're looking at Pedro Amaral back in 14th as we cycle through the field. But that's now Amaral under attack from Osserklint. Oh, bit of a hip and shoulder. And Osserklint did lean on him a little bit, but he had to slot back in and realise he wasn't going to push the issue too much. And now, of course, he's getting the big hurry up from Luis Fernandez, the man who delayed the start because he couldn't find his grid slot. As we head into, the final couple of corners. And so far, it seems, there's a little bit more eventful in this race, John, as there's a bit more contact going on. And Dweevelaar sets the fastest lap of the race for 1:23.732. But as you watch again with Strana, and Tveit now defending from Dweevelaar, is giving him, always literally pushing Tveit around the first corner. Dweevelaar definitely looking as competitive as he was in race 1, but so far Ice Cold have the measure, and THR got some work to do to try and make this work, as I think the two THR cars are going side by side for 4th in the background.
Yeah, definitely. Another man who's side by side is Dan Allenson, and it's with Wiesenmuller and Salo's getting involved, and they almost make a bit of a THR sandwich there, but Rasmus manages to escape the massive
Dan's going around the outside.
Mini breads. Anyway, no, Dan Allenson down the inside now. Oh, he's going to run wide though. He gets hit up the rear by Robert Wiesenmuller. He's going to lose another position there to Ryan Callan. It's all getting a bit frantic here on lap 6 out of 20 in this race too. And also Butcher getting involved, so the championship leader's having a real nightmare down in 8th, as you were saying earlier on. He's having a better race than his fellow team owner, mind you, Toby Davis, who's had an absolute shocker, been in the pits a few times as well. And this is a fantastic battle going on right now. Let's hope these guys keep it clean. There's, big contact, and that's going to send Chris Butcher off. And he manages to hold on to it, but that was really unnecessary weaving in the braking zone, it looked like. I'm sure they'll be able to take a replay of that after, and I can't really call it, but I think it looked like slightly unnecessary blocking by Dan Allenson there, and he really shouldn't be doing that. But he manages to hold on to 7th position, very respectable, behind Ryan Callan, who's made his way forward instead of backwards in this race, which is good to see. Reigning champion Robert Wiesenmuller leading the THR Red struggles, it has to be said in this race, as we've had a change up there. We have had a change because Eric Tveit is under real pressure from Walk Racing's Peter Dweevelaar, and Dweevelaar's now going to look to the outside line as we cut to the back view from Eric Tveit, and that is a very menacing sight there. The black and gold car of Peter Dweevelaar is down the inside of Tveit into the sole corner, and they do very well to avoid contact on entry. Tveit's going to try and hang around the outside. Brilliant defensive driving from the young Norwegian. and just days before his 16th birthday, he's hoping to hold on to that second place, and he's doing a good job right now in helping his teammate Scott, because of course Strachan out in front 2.1 seconds. There's a bit of changing in positions near the back, but Eric Strachan 2.1 seconds out in front here, and Tvite's doing a stunning job of holding up Duivelar, and he's basically gifting Strachan the win at the moment. Let's just hope they don't follow NATO in his interesting line into the final turn. But yeah, this is definitely looking good for Ice Cold at the moment. Tvite doing a fantastic job for his teammate.
It's exactly what we said just before the beginning of the race, is that Strana is being allowed to run away with the victory, and Tvite's kind of being the one that's holding everyone up, especially Peter Duivelar, because Duivelar seems to have the pace to be able to chase after Strana, but he just can't do it, and can't get the most out of that number 3 car, because he is being held up by the bright blue thing in front of him, which is of course Eric Tvite. Robert Biesenmuller back in P5 sets the fastest lap of the race, 1:23.713, so fractionally faster than Peter Duivelar's previous fastest lap. And they head onto the back straight once again. There's Biesenmuller chasing Rasmus Salo. They head down the back straight here, past the grandstands on the right-hand side. Now looking at the back of Rasmus Salo's car as they head into Curva Sul, and just looking at peeking in front. And Duivelar is still finding it difficult to get around Eric Tvite, the young Norwegian. As John said, he's going to soon celebrate his 16th birthday, so it'd be great to see him possibly get an early birthday present with a second place here. But he's having to work for it and defend for his life from Peter Duivelar, who is really putting him under some serious pressure here, and just attack all the way, every single corner of every single lap so far. We are on lap 8 of 20, approaching half distance here at the second race in Jacarepagua. Duivelar just moves out and has a look into box corner, but can't quite get the move done because Tvite has put his car in exactly the right position at exactly the right time and is holding on for the moment. But Duivelar again will look to the outside. Can he get it done this time? Can he get the switch back on the exit of the corner? Let's find out and see. On to the pit straight they come once again. Tvite holding second, Duivelar still third. The battle between the two THR sister teammates continues to go on for P4. But this is the battle we're looking at for second place. And will Duivelar think about a late braking move into the hairpin? He's going to look, but Tvite is going to try and force him wide, and it has worked. He's forced Tvite to go slightly deep. He's got him to run up the inside on the exit of the corner, off the back straight. And now look at that, he's as close as you would like to be on the exit of the corner, down the back straight. He's in that fantastic slipstream, but he's going to catch down towards Curva Sul. If you're going to make a dive up the inside, it has to be now. He's going to try out here. Tvite's going to try and go around the outside, and he has been successful. Chops off the front of that walk racing car and holds on to second place for the moment. So Strana, meanwhile, is up. It leads up to almost 3 seconds. The gap's coming down by a tenth. So Strana just dropping back a tiny bit, but still holding a commanding lead at the moment. Because believe me, in these minis, a 3-second lead is absolutely huge. Because of course, the fact these cars, they are small and they do have quite a bit of power, but not lost the fact that this gap in any other kind of cars would be obviously smaller as the fact they're much quicker. But 3 seconds in minis is quite large. So Eric Strana is running away with it so far. And Tvite is doing exactly what I think was expected of him in many ways, is that he's sitting there holding the pack up, and of course look behind, the likes of Salo, and also Biesenmuller, and Callan, and Allenson, and Butcher, and also to an extent Talbot also, they're coming back towards these two guys here, because of the fact that Tvite is controlling the pace from second place onwards. It's bringing these guys back into contention, as we see the two THR guys continue to battle, in holding station for the moment, as I don't think Biesenmuller wants to try and attack Salo too much. But so far, as they're going side by side in front between Salo and Tvite and Duivelar couldn't get the move done that time, so Tvite is holding on. But yeah, John, looks as though that the pace that Eric's setting, it's not as fast as Peter would like it to be, and it's bringing everyone else behind back into contention. And if Peter's not careful, he may come under attack from either of the THR cars, who are still scrapping amongst themselves, but these seem to have enough pace to close in, unless Peter could do something about the car in front of him.
Yeah, definitely, and I think at the moment, Eric Tvite doing a fantastic job in second place. I think Strani definitely owes him a birthday present, an early birthday present for 16th, for the fantastic job he's doing in second place, holding on to this gap. He's he's doing stunning defending. It's really difficult to explain. He's just defending so well against Duivelar. He's slightly aggressive. I mean, there was quite a few big chops going on, but nothing too malicious, and managing to hold the inside line tightly without big contact between the two of them. And he's doing a great job, and he's really taking the word teamwork and showing what it's all about. He's not knocking other drivers off to help his teammate. He's just defending well and opening up a big gap. and it's definitely showing that, you know, having a teammate around you matters. I mean, without Eric Tveit there, it's quite possible that Dweevelar will be right on the back of Strachan at the moment, and I think the other guys who are trying to do teamwork less successfully were THR, and Ryan Callan has actually managed to get past both of the THR drivers and up to 4th position. I was about to say that we saw Robert pushing Salo down the pit straight earlier on. I think they were trying to get away from Ryan Callan, or maybe closing the guys in front, but that's not what's important at the moment, as Wiesenmüller goes to the far inside, and Callan loses 2 places back on the straight. And is it going to be 3? We've seen him go off here a couple of times, and a wee drive across the world earlier on in this race, and there's more contact, and that's a nice little cut back there by Callan, but Dan Allison's having none of it and chops him off, and there's more contact out of the corner, and this is again starting to get quite a bit too aggressive here, as Chris Butcher's now looking to get in on the act, but does well to duck out of it. Allinson continues his charge in 6th position. He'll be delighted with how this race is going right now. Right behind Robert Wiesenmüller, the reigning champion from Germany, is holding on to 5th place, and as I said, THR Red are really struggling here. I mean, Robert and Chris are both dropping back. I mean, they were both in 5th and 8th last time I saw them, but they didn't have cars right behind them, as if I can remember. So that's a really strange one. That looks like Callan was going down the inside of the man we were on board with, Dan Allinson. And Callan's having another good fight for 6th position. They go side by side as we ride on board with the second THR Red driver, Chris Butcher, championship leader, of course, heading into this round. He'll not be too happy with how this one's gone. He could have run race 1, he didn't, and he's trying to do as well as he can in race 2. There's pushing on the inside of the corner. I'm not sure why Chris went for that, because there definitely wasn't a gap opening up for him. He probably should have waited behind and tried to get a slipstream into the next corner and bide his time, because it's just going to cost him. And as you can see, it's helped Ryan Callan, the little push he's got, because he's now down the inside of Dan Allinson as they almost make contact. Does well to back out of it, and they maintain position. Allison's ran wide, but he's going to have the inside line into the next right-hander, the 90-degree right-hander, and he does manage to hold on to position. There's slightly more contact. There's too much contact. There's definitely too much contact as Chris gets involved as well. And 3 cars concertinaing right up there. And this is, of course, the battle for 6th, 7th, and 8th position. So I think Ryan and Chris will be slightly disappointed they're only battling for 6th here, Scott. And Dan Allison, on the other hand, will be delighted. And this is just allowing Robert and Rasmus to build a gap, but I don't think they've got enough time or pace to catch up with this battle here, unless Tveit manages to hold up Dweevelar much longer, which I'm not sure he's going to be able to do. Dweevelar looks to the outside into the last hairpin. He's trying to go around the outside. He hits the side of Tveit, keeps it on the black stuff, which is better than his teammate can manage earlier on. Tveit forces him to the edge of the track, but it still gives enough room to leave him there, and Dweevelar will now have the inside into turn 1, and I think he's going to do it on this corner, but it's all about the run out of this next turn, as you're about to see. So Tveit darts to the outside, he concedes the corner to Dweevelar, hoping that he'll run wide, and that's exactly what happened. Tveit's going to go down the inside. And it was almost a beautiful cutback. Tveit carried a bit too much speed and hit Dweevelar, but they head now down the back stretch, and that was a little bit frantic, but Tveit somehow manages to hold on to 2nd place, albeit a little over aggressively. And the cutback move worked into turn 1. There was contact on the exit, but Tveit had a lot more pace and managed to carry through with it. As now Dweevelar looks to the inside of Tveit, which is of course going to be the outside. I think things are definitely beginning to heat up between the two, because they do seem to be rubbing on almost every corner, and you can definitely tell that these guys are pretty angry at the moment, as we have a lovely look inside of Eric Tveit's car. I'm sure that's physically possible, I'm sure. And Peter Dweevelar maintains his position in 3rd, and I'm not sure, Scott, he seems to have more pace than Tveit, but he just can't get past him. Do you think he'll get a move done by the end of the race, or maybe THR guys will close in on them?
Well, the trouble is that the 2 THR guys are actually stuck behind themselves. In fact, it's more of a case of Wiesenmüller is having to follow Salo at the moment, because you see, because he could have passed quite a while ago, but Wiesenmüller is not actually moving past Salo at all. I think he's almost letting Salo dictate the pace, and it's because of that Wiesenmüller but both these guys aren't actually closing as much as they could be. I reckon if it was the other way around, possibly if Salo was getting a tow from Wiesenmüller, it might work. As we see now, Dweevelar once again to the outside of Tveit into turn 1. Is he going to try and repeat what Tveit did earlier on? He'll try and stick it around the outside, but Tveit again, the optimum line on the inside, and gets the job done, holds on to 2nd. But Dweevelar again gets the better exit out of the corner, and the faster run in the slipstream, and again pulls to the inside. Now, can he get this move done stuck at this time? Into Curva, saw under braking. This time he breaks a little bit later and forces the inside line. Tveit's very brave to go around the outside. If he can hold to this one, but he'll have the inside line for the next corner for the right-hander, and he can get it done. And Tveit is still in front in 2nd place. And look at this, because look at behind them, Salo and Wiesenmüller kind of contradicting what I just said, but Salo and VC Miller are closing in, and it is becoming a four-way battle for second place. So under brakes now, Salo is now on the back of Dweeblar, so now this means that Dweeblar's in a catch-22. He has to try and attack the right and get second place, but at the same time, watch his mirrors and look for Salo and VC Miller and watch for any attacks. See if they're going to try and charge past, and there goes Salo, as he almost made a move up the inside through box corner, but wasn't enough, was nowhere near alongside enough to try and make the move stick and for it to be at least a sensible pass in any shape or form. Looking back behind, you can see Brian Callan in the background, and also I can see that Dan Anderson and Chris Butcher battling also in the background for 7th and 8th. So we'll look at that in a moment, but we continue on this battle for second place. Meanwhile, back at the front, we've almost forgotten about him. Eric Strana has just over a 5-second lead over these two. As Dweeblar dives to the outside, he may have worked last time, he might try and get again this time, and somehow Tavite has kept it in front. But again, Dweeblar will have the outside run, and here comes Salo and VC Miller. Salo will have a tow, but so will Dweeblar. And Tavite's getting very defensive. He's forcing Dweeblar to the outside. We've seen it many times before. The outside run into Curva is usually the faster line. Can he get it stuck this time? No. Tavite is putting off some fantastic defensive driving, some fantastic clean defensive driving. As here comes Dweeblar up the inside of the corner, but he'll be on the outside again for the right-hander. So there's no doing up there at all. And now Salo's going to throw himself into the mix. He can smell a podium here. He can even smell second if these two come to blows as they head through the left hand up towards Lagoa, and again Dweeblar will try and dive up the inside, but again he's going to have to defend from Salo through Lagoa corner and up towards Boxton at the extra left-hander. Bit shaky on the exit as Salo is almost pushing Dweeblar down the straight, saying, come on Peter, get on with it, I want to try and get a podium and get myself a trophy to go with it at least. As on the switchback, I think possibly that Salo trying to go to the outside of Dweeblar, and VC Miller's watching and waiting for a mistake from potentially Dweeblar or his teammate. And Dweeblar will hold the inside line because he knows that if he gives any of these guys around him an inch, they will snatch it with both hands and hold on to it for dear life. Now Callan's in 6th position and a little bit of no man's land. He's not really close enough to get a tow, but he's broken away from both Butcher and Anderson, and Butcher at least has got past Anderson at some point around the lap. But there he goes around the outside with some rather dodgy braking. Anderson will now get the cut back on the inside and hold the run on the exit of the first corner, but somehow Butcher's kept that car in front. And so THR red cars on our 5th and 7th, not exactly where they'd like to be. I'm pretty sure they'd like to be where the ice cold cars are, which are 1st and 2nd. So into Curva they go. Salo runs a little bit wide, and that will allow possibly VC Miller to run up the inside of his teammate, but for some reason VC Miller is just staying behind him. He's not pushing as hard as he could be. I think that's really hurting VC Miller. I think VC Miller needs to make the point that he wants to get past, and he is the quicker of the two drivers. I think he's doing that right now because he was moving around a little bit behind Salo. I don't quite get why he's doing this, John. I understand if there's team orders. Why there'd be team orders at any point of the season, I'm not sure. But surely, if VC Miller is losing that much time behind Salo and is fast enough to challenge both Dweeblar and Tavite, surely the smart thing to do would be for THR to say to Rasmus, let Robert through because he is quicker, and of course THR Red at the moment, in fairness, are going for points. As we see, Tavite and Dweeblar are side by side again, and Dweeblar was slightly wide on the exit. That was a consequence of trying to go around the outside of Tavite into the final corner, but Tavite held the line as he's entitled to do, gave him just about enough room, but the understeer which Dweeblar has forced him wide on the exit. So now Dweeblar's bobbed back a little bit and tries to close on the braking, which he does a little bit, but onto the back straight they come. But do you think THR are playing it a bit wrong here, allowing Salo to stay in front of VC Miller, or is VC Miller making a mistake? Is this a personal decision? I can't quite make this one out, because surely if VC Miller's struggling that much behind Salo and feels that he's quicker, he should be passed by now, shouldn't he?
Yeah, definitely. As we just quickly look, as Dweeblar has a quick look at Tavite, and they still managed to keep it nice and clean. But yeah, going back to the matter, it's a bit strange because as we ride on board with VC Miller, not from behind of course, it does seem like he is being held up behind Rasmus, because every time he just seems to be looking around and Rasmus's car is right there. He seems to be braking earlier to avoid contact with his teammate, and it does seem to be hindering him. It's a bit of a strange one. I'm not sure if they'll be, I'm sure they'll be talking to each other, maybe just waiting for their moment to pounce. But I would think Robert would be trying to force the issue with Rasmus, or at least asking him, you know, if I'm quicker than you, can you maybe run wide into the corner? And maybe there's an argument going on. We never are really going to know unless we talk to these drivers after the race. But it's an interesting one. I did not expect the two THR guys to bring it back to this fight, but it shows, it pays dividend to how good a defensive job that Eric Tavite is doing. I mean, just look at the fact he's 6.6 seconds behind Strand, and he's managed to open that gap up. as his car going slow there. Oh, that looked like Toby Davis there. But yeah, he managed to open that gap up to 6.6 without conceding a position, which is incredible to do. And speaking of conceding positions, Dweevelar forces the issue again with Stroud around the outside. That'll be a great move if he can pull it off. He's tried it before, and Tveit is wary of the move and experienced in defending it. And let's see if it works out this time for the Norwegian. He holds the inside line over, of course, the only man to have won many races here before. He's going to go around the outside into Seoul. That's a brave move. They keep it nice and clean as Tveit holds an inside line. Dweevelar holds the outside line, and there's enough racing room to get around. And that's more. Look at Tveit.
Look at
He's just spinning
Salo.
that car on the inside. Salo goes around the outside, and that might make Robert a bit happier because he knows he can force the issue slightly more if there's a different car in front of him. And maybe Rasmus is trying to help them at the moment. And oh look, he's forced to the inside. Keep it nice and calm, boys. We don't want a repeat of the instance we saw at Curva because it's not only going to hinder them with penalties. And also, look at Ryan Callan getting involved in this now. And it's now become a 5-car battle for second place. And Tveit is doing an incredible job to hold on here. His teammate definitely owes him one. If he can maintain this, it'll be a momentous defensive drive. But look at the squabble it's caused behind. This big, the Tveit train, we need to call it now. He's taken place of Jarno Trulli in this one, but I'm sure it's for the right reasons because, of course, as I've said, he's holding them up for his teammate. And you never know, Tveit may be able to go quicker, although I'm sure now he'll be pushing as hard as he can now that he knows his teammate is comfortably out in front. But it is still him who's in second place. Rasmus Salo was third, but now Peter Dweevelar's looking back down the inside, and if Robert Wiesemüller's not careful, he's going to lose out to Ryan Callan, the second Walk Racing driver. So now it's 2 THR cars and 2 Walk cars versus Ice Cold. And of course, Ice Cold are winning at the moment because they're first and second, Scott.
They are indeed. Striner has a 7.6 second lead, but it's still this battle for second. It's 5-way scrap for the podium places, which we have our eyes glued to the screens on. As we now watch Tveit still with Salo third, Dweevelar fourth, Wiesemüller fifth, and Ryan Callan over tail of that field in P6. And Chris Butcher's been the background there in P7, who is not really there. And the championship lead looks like he's going to lose it. As now we've got Wiesemüller trying to go up the inside of Peter Dweevelar. Couldn't get the move stuck as Dweevelar pushed his way to the inside and held the position. And now it's put Callan right onto the back of the German as they head towards box corner. Callan just darts out, has a look, trying to put himself into his mirrors. And what's that contact? I think Wiesemüller hit the back of Dweevelar. I think he did. More contact. And it's getting very fast and frantic here. Calm it, boys. We need some more clean racing here, but desperation starting to sink in for some of these drivers. They know they're coming onto the last lap, which Eric Strana's has just started. So he is now just one more lap away from taking another double win and repeating that which Chris Butcher did back at Curitiba. Speaking of Chris Butcher, he's coming off the back of these four, because I think that Tveit and Salo are starting to break away. Yes, they are. So could even Rasmus Salo get second?
There goes Callan.
I think that's Callan up the inside of Wiesemüller on the exit of turn 1. He's got the move done. I think they're going to be side by side on the exit. Now then, Wiesemüller will get the toe from Dweevelar, which is quite ironic because, of course, that's Callan's teammate. So it's inadvertently Dweevelar's helping out the man which Callan's trying to battle for 5th position. Callan back up the inside. Was there any contact? I'm not sure if there was, but here comes Chris Butcher on the outside. Is he close enough to make any kind of attack? I'm not sure if he is. We'll have to look at Strana in a second because he is, I think, pretty close to ending this final lap as they head towards the Moret and then Lagoa corners, and Tveit will hold second for the moment. It could all change in the next few corners as there goes again Callan trying to get back up the inside of Wiesemüller, attacking once more, but still Wiesemüller will not give way, but back to the front. This man, what can you say? Chris Butcher dominated race 1 in Curitiba. It has been exactly the same story with Eric Strana in race 2. Round the final corner, he's been completely unchallenged. We haven't talked about it so much because he's been so far out in front. Round the final corner, Eric Strana goes 2 for 2 in Jacarepagua. He wins both races here in round 2 of the Virtual Mini Challenge. And who's it going to be? Second place is Tveit, but look at the background. Tveit will get second. Salo third. It's going to be Dweevelar fourth and fifth. Across the line they go. Wiesemüller just gets it. And Butcher beats Callan on the line.
Oh, and there's contact after the line.
Now, I think Callan, was that just coincidence or was Callan displeased with Wiesemüller on that one? Because it looks to me, we may have missed something off camera, what I wonder. We can get replays, so maybe if John, we want to look back at that, because we can get replays, maybe we can look back and see what occurred, because we can rewind, because maybe we can see what we may have missed in the final few corners, and we'll look through it. So let's have a look here then. So, there was a bit of a change, so here we go, we left it here. Let's go through it. So, final corner, and this is Callan trying to go to the outside. Wiesemüller, well, I don't know, because will Butcher try to capitalise, because Wiesemüller looks like Callan tried to go around the outside, and then he just got boxed out by both THR cars towards the line here. So I'm not quite sure if that was just you can see that because Callan turns into Racing Wheel at the end. So whether that was out of anger or whether he felt he was squeezed out. But looking back at the replay, John, it looks as though I'm not quite sure what Callan's problem was, because it didn't look as though Racing Wheel did anything wrong. Callan tried to go to the outside. Now, whether or not Racing Wheel understeered because he had lost of grip and was trying to push on to try and keep ahead, I'm not quite sure what was up with that one, because if Callan is upset with Racing Wheel, I can't really work out why.
Yeah, I'll just come back to that one in a second. Just to round off the second race from round 2 here, it's Eric Strand takes the win from Eric Tveit. Rasmus Salo finishes 3rd, Peter Drievelar 4th. Robert Riesenmuller ahead of his teammate Chris Butcher, with Ryan Callan 7th, Dan Allenson 8th, George Talbot 9th, and Thomas Matizowski for THR Orange rounding out the top 10. Rhys Gardner finishes a very respectable 11th, ahead of another respectable drive by Ethan Bass. Louis Fernandez, the man out of position at the start, gets a 13th, ahead of Jonathan Ockerclinth. Xavier Di Carvalho is 15th, and Jimmy Hughes 16th. Pedro Amaral finishes 17th, which is better than his teammate managed, it has to be said. Aricius Razvan, 18th for Walk Racing. Lewis McGlade, another respectable 19th position for him, he'll be delighted with that. And Scott Sovic, the top Airstream driver, rounding out the points in 20th position. But yeah, that was a really controversial move from Callan right towards the end there. I'm not quite sure. To be honest, I think he was very frustrated because Wiesenmuller looked like he ran wide to block Callan off the last corner. Maybe just tried to brake late. We don't know if it's intentional or not, but that seems to be definitely what happened there. And Ryan, I'm not sure if he was venting his frustration or maybe he was just trying to get between the two cars over the line and caused an incident. I really don't know if that was intentional or not, but that could be looked at by the stewards after the race actually, because it's very unprofessional for these kind of incidents to occur. But in the meantime, we will jump to a quick break and hopefully be back with some interviews for you after an incredibly exciting round 2 at Jacarepagua Curva Sol, so don't go anywhere.
Inside SimRacing.tv, the fastest show on the internet. Sim racing news and reviews since 2007, with new shows every week.
And we are back after an incredibly action-packed race here at Jacarepagua. But of course, when is it not action-packed in the Virtual Mini Challenge Season 2014? We have seen a fantastic dominant drive by Eric Strani and a double win. And of course, just before we go back to the results and get some interviews, to find out more about Touring Pro Series, head to TouringProSeries.com for all the latest news, information about forums, calendars, and broadcasts and everything. All the information you ever want, you will find on TouringProSeries.com. You can also follow them on Facebook at facebook.com/TouringProSeries. Follow them on Twitter at twitter.com/touring_pro, and watch every single broadcast in the history of the series back on YouTube at youtube.com/TouringProSeries. Now, I'm just going to work out if we have interviews. I think we should be having interviews. Scott's just gone to round up some drivers, so he'll be back in just a minute. But yeah, ice cold dominance in that one. It's pretty much a role reversal of round 1, where we saw THR Red, after some frantic scraps in race 1. Chris Butcher won the first race and then ran off for the second. And you have to say it was the same here. It looked like Chris Butcher had it sealed, and then Eric Strand manages to force his way through and run away with the first race and completely dominated the second one from the start with a fantastic ice cold racing 1-2. So pretty much a role reversal from round 1 at Curitiba. So very interesting for the championship standings. Unfortunately, I can't give you live updates on the standings, which is a bit of a shame, but we'll, I'm sure, be able to come to that at the next event. Just before we have these interviews, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what's coming up in the Touring Pro Series, in case you missed it. The next event, the Virtual Supertech Series, coming up to you live from Jerez on Saturday. That will be at 5:50 p.m. That's GMT time on the 30th of November, so don't go anywhere, and please make sure you watch that broadcast, because of course they missed round 1 at Curitiba and it was incredibly exciting racing, and it will of course be the first race in a new team for many drivers, and also the first race without Precision, so that's really interesting. We have a big mix up there, which I'm sure in that broadcast they will cover a lot of, because of course Minis, it wasn't Precision's series anyway, so we thought we'd better leave that for another broadcast, and that will be Scott Woodwiss and Ryan Cowan, I believe, on comms for that one. Then after that, next Wednesday is the second round of the Virtual Touring Masters from Salzburg Ring. Some very interesting times in practice so far. And a very controversial race one, actually, with Jesper Tolberg and Robert Wiesmuller having a couple of big incidents, which led to Ross McGregor winning his first race in the Touring Pro Series, and that was a stunning event. So be sure to check out the broadcast of that one on YouTube and tune in for the second round, which I believe is commentary from Keith Barrick and Toby Davis. So it's good to see those guys back in the comms booth. I do think we're struggling, unfortunately, for interviews at the moment. And just as I say that, we have been joined by Eric Strand, so I'm going to talk to our double race winner, as we hopefully are running out some drivers now. So Eric, if you're available to talk straight away.
Yep.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, well done on an incredible event for yourself. Of course, you owe a lot to your teammate in that second race for holding up the pack, but first of all, talk us through the first one, because it looked for a while like Chris had you covered, and then you managed to get past him, so just tell us about how the first race.
Yeah, that was, I got past Peter and Ryan pretty quickly off the start, and then I thought Chris had the pace to keep me at bay, but then he lost a bit of time near the end, so, and then it was just like not making mistakes and try to get up to it while keeping the gap back to Peter, so, I got past Chris, and then it was just like try to maintain not making any mistakes in front of him and in front of Peter, so they sneaked past in the last corner because that would have kind of sucked. And then second race, Dwight just did all the work. I just had to focus on my stuff, and he took care of everything behind me. So yeah, that's a really nice combination, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to ask you actually about that qualifying lap, because it looked like you and Eric Tveit, of course, worked incredibly well together, you giving him the slipstream and dragging you both up to the front row, and of course he did a lot of the work there, but you of course still had to lap incredibly fast, which you did, and absolutely ran away with a dominant victory. So was that qualifying session planned? Did you always plan to do the drafting, or was it just a kind of idea that sprung into your head last minute?
No, we actually escaped. We had done a qualifying run before that, and then we escaped at the same time. We asked, "Where are you?" So, and then we just picked each other up. And then that one lap was just a fluke lap. I had the slipstream of Fernandez, and Fight had the slipstream of me. So, we got. It wasn't much of a difference, but it was still a difference, and that would count in the end.
And of course, the final thing, you missed a few races last season, if I can remember correctly, which kind of which dented your championship challenge. But after this double victory, do you think it's definitely on the cards, the championship this season?
Yeah, I'm gonna try. I'm not gonna promise anything, but I'm certainly gonna try like I did last year.
Well, that's definitely good to hear. So thank you very much. That's Eric Strand, our Race 1 and Race 2 winner, and that puts him level on race victories for the season with Chris Butcher after both taking double victories. So well done to you. And speaking of Chris Butcher, we'll have a quick word with him now, if Scott can take that one away.
Yep, not a problem. So, Chris, you managed to get a pole position in Race 1, outside the top 10 in Race 2. It's safe to say you were up at the front and were leading for most of the race in Race 1, but it seemed to be just at the end, Eric was just a bit too quick, and he managed to catch you.
Tyres went. That was it, really. And I couldn't keep him at bay. And then obviously once he gets into the slipstream, he gets even more grip, so it becomes almost impossible to keep someone behind when they've got more grip than you, and your tyres have gone as well. So I felt like I could have maybe had a go at him. But Peter Drievler was lagging quite badly in the first race, and I got a few knocks into the back of my car, and that cost me a little bit of time. But I was happy with second place, to be honest.
It was a great effort nonetheless. But looking to Race 2, you seem to be quite off the pace in qualifying. Maybe just the first part of this just talks about what happened in qualifying, were you held up by traffic at all or anything. And then the second, of course, into the Race 2, you had to battle your way through the field and had some early scraps, but there was something going on at the end, of course, where you caught up with the kind of battle between the likes of Drievler and Callan and Riesenmüller in that aspect. Obviously, I did see in the team speech that there was quite a few discussions going on between all of that. But just talk to how your Race 2 played out.
Well, qualifying was a little bit of a nightmare. I was lining Toby up to follow me around because he didn't quite have the pace here. So I was hoping I could get him up the grid a little bit further. But unfortunately, when I was starting my run, he crashed into the back of me. so I had to go back to the pits, and then I was just stuck in traffic. I was really struggling to find a gap, and then I struggled to put a lap together. And then on my very last run, I was very close to Strand's time actually, and I got a little bit distracted in the penultimate turn, and it cost me about half a second. So it wasn't really the best performance from me. I need to apologise to my teammates actually, because I had a little bit of a go in TeamSpeak, and it wasn't really their fault. As for the race, I had to start the race with some damage because I got hit on the formation lap. And yeah, I got stuck behind the battle between Allington and Callan for quite a long time, and there's quite a lot of contact between the two of them. And I think I must have been unsighted at some point because I got pushed off the track myself. Got back up to them, eventually got past Allington. Was drawn into a battle with him for a little bit, and Ryan escaped up the road a little bit, and then got stuck behind that battle for second place, and I managed to catch up to them on the last lap. Obviously, Rob went defensive, and Ryan was forced out wide a little bit, and there was a bit of a run on the inside, and I managed to overtake him. Didn't quite get the run on Rob, but I don't know. You'll have to ask Ryan his thoughts on that. It seemed fair from my point of view. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased towards THR, I suppose. But I'm not really sure what the contact after the race was about. It's unfortunate, really.
It certainly was, but even so, obviously, a great effort from you, at least anyway, to get the points that you needed anyway. But you take away from this race a podium at least, so well done for that at least, and fingers crossed you can have a few better fortunes of the next one. But anyway, best of luck for the next race on that one, Chris. I guess now, John, we should brave it out with the guy. Well, first we can speak to Peter Dweevar, because of course he had some great runs and managed to get himself onto the podium in both races, so we can talk to him. So John, take it away with Peter.
Yeah, so Peter, you seem to have great pace before the race in practice, obviously. Things didn't go quite to plan in qualifying one without getting onto the front row, but it was really good for your teammates. So just talk us through your event and how you managed it, because you seem to have a very good race one, especially with the third place towards the end and fighting for the lead. So just talk us through your race one.
Race 1 was quite okay. Qualifying was a bit more difficult. Beginning I had problems to control my nerves, but at the end I managed to get a good run. Also, thanks to a bit of slipstream, my teammate Ryan. So got the third place to start. Race actually went quite well. Pace was there. I think I was maybe even a little bit faster than Eric and Chris over the whole race. I couldn't manage to overtake Chris or Eric. So a little bit disappointed with the third place. For the second race I had high hopes. Qualifying went very well. Unfortunate that at the end of the qualifying, Eric both got a very good lap time, so I again had to start from P3. I knew that if I wouldn't overtake Tveit in the first corner, then I would just run away and gone. Well, that's actually what happened. After that I was just focusing on passing Tveit, but he defended just really well. Couldn't get past. In the end, Rasmus managed to overtake me as well, so disappointing overall, I must say.
Yeah, of course, and as you were saying with the Eric Tveit, we definitely enjoyed your battle. That was fantastic. Defending from Eric and also fantastic pressing from you, and that created a great point to watch for the second race, so well done to both of those drivers for that. Just to finish off, Peter, what are you feeling about the championship? Because of course you've had 2 rounds now. They've both been solid, but they've not been overwhelming after, of course, coming back as Season 1 champion. So, how do you feel going forward from that?
At this moment I just feel myself as an outsider for the championship. I think Stranne and Butcher are the main contenders for the championship. I just have to hope that coming events I will get some better results, and well, title will just be my main goal. It's until the end as far as possible, but I see myself as an outsider at this moment.
Okay, well, very well done to Peter Dweevar. Of course, got a podium in race 1 and a fantastic battle in race 2. And it's great to see him and Walk Racing having a great race here today and really dragging the team up to the front of the grid, along with the man we're about to talk to, Ryan Callan, who had a before we focus on the last corner, let's focus on the positives. So Scott, I'll let you take that one away.
Yep, certainly. Ryan, obviously, for qualifying for the first race, fantastic effort to get on the front row. Just talk us through that, because of course you started second and then started to fall a little bit backwards due to the fact that other cars are a little bit quicker. But just talk us through your first race from your opinion.
I was really pleased to be on the front row. I was aiming for top 5, really. I knew I could get top 5, and that lap itself wasn't that surprising, really. So, in terms of lap time, but to be second place, really pleasing, and to be back at the pointy end again after such a long time. In the race, I've not been at the front for quite a long time, so it was difficult to get in, because it's obviously a race, you don't want to make a mistake, and it's difficult to get the mentality of driving 100% every lap like you have to do in TPS. I was driving 95%. As a result, Chris got away slightly. Eric got past as well, and Peter, I felt I was holding Peter up, so I just let him go. So, and then after that, it was fairly boring, to be honest. I was pleased to be in 4th place, but having been on the front row as well, it's kind of dissatisfying also. But 14 I would take him before the race, and then I was watching the battle up ahead between Peter and Chris into the penultimate corner. Wasn't paying attention and just missed my braking by ever so slightly. And anybody who drives this track in these cars knows at the final corner, if you just miss ever so slightly, you run wide, there's no camber on the outside, and you get in the grass and it just drags you right off. So I finished 5th because of that mistake. But it was an encouraging return to form.
It certainly was. It's something you can build on. Looking on to race 2, your qualifying you've qualified a little bit further back. I believe you were 6th or somewhere around there in qualifying. You had a couple of excursions early on, including one where you kind of lost where the racetrack was. We found a bit of a shortcut. But
yes,
of course,
I'd scouted that prior to the event.
Yes, we're saying the broadcast, it's the black stuff, right, not the green stuff with the shortcut. But obviously, I guess we have to come to it now, and obviously we are on broadcast. Let's keep it clean. The battle's near the end of the race where you caught up to the pack.
There's no controversy, by the way. I'm sorry to disappoint people, but go ahead.
But I was a bit scared to go to T-Speak, Chan, because I saw you and Robert in there. I thought, uh-oh, it's going to be something going on there. But yeah, just talk to what happened, because from our point of view, it seems as though Wiesenmuller ran wide, and obviously through fault of his own or purposeful, we don't know. But
let's talk through the race, because it was a very, very interesting race, actually, because got a half-decent start. Michael Nater got a cracking start. I don't know whether he jumped the start or not, but went flying past me. I got past him then, and then I was behind the train, and Talbot ran slightly wide. There was a gap for me to go through. I was in 7th place behind, I think it was Allinson and a couple of others, and it was a very good battle with Dan as well. I can't remember exactly what happened, but we had a couple of skirmishes, but it wasn't anything in particularly, just normal racing, to be honest. Me and Dan are absolutely fine with it. Dan came down and said good race. I said good race to him. It was fine. I got away. I put into really solid laps to catch up to that battle for 2nd place. And Robert was just really slow, really unusual in these cars for Robert to be so inconsistent. And I got past him with a surprise move, and then he got past me because I hit Sarlo. Now I tapped the back of Sarlo because I braked slightly too late. Sarlo was slightly wide, so it was just coming together, and I had to let Sarlo go back through straight away. Of course, Robert, of course, then got through as well, and so did Dan. And I got past Dan again, and then got back up to Robert. I was going past Robert, but unfortunately, Peter, my teammate, wasn't looking behind, and he gave the draft. Obviously, because he was on the racing line, I was on the inside, and Robert was on that side. He gave the draft to Robert, so that pulled Robert past me instead of pulling me past Robert. So I ended up stuck behind Robert again, and then Robert was so slow again on the final lap. I was right behind the back. I had nowhere to go into the final corner, but on the outside, and I knew, because Chris was right behind me, I knew what would happen, that he would go past, because I just had no choice at all. Robert obviously ran wide in the exit, pushed me out wide, and Chris went past. And I was just frustrated, and at the line, I hit the brakes really hard, because of our frustration, and as it did that, it yanked my wheel, and I caught the back of Robert as it did that, and it yanked my wheel and span him, and it was literally not on purpose at all, but obviously I should be more careful about pressing my brakes so hard in frustration.
Quite possibly, yeah. But it's good to see you back at the front anyway, and hopefully it's encouraging form that you showed possibly to carry on for the rest of the season. So fingers crossed you can carry it on and possibly get a few podiums along the way. But nonetheless, decent qualifying, decent pace. Good to see you back up in the front, so hopefully you can build on that, Ryan. But well done anyway for the results you did manage. John, who do we have next, if anyone else? I guess we should really talk to the other guy in that incident, which is the other THR Red driver, Robert Wiesenmuller, if you've got him, John.
Yep, so Robert, just like to talk to you about that event. You could say underwhelming from yourself compared to your previous, obviously, in the series and round one. Didn't quite show as much pace as usual, so just talk us through that. I mean, were you struggling with the pace all week, or was it simply maybe not quite on form tonight, or just a few too many mistakes?
Well, I think I was really bad in both races. I had the pace itself was not really the problem, not the consistency. Making lots of little mistakes and didn't really have the lines all the way in me. I didn't really know each lap what I was doing. I didn't know what I was doing when the tires went off and so on. So I don't know. I wasn't really good. I thought I don't like the track in particular. It doesn't really help.
And do you think this will knock your confidence, or do you reckon you're going to be able to go out there in the next round and fight for victories? I mean, are you still feeling up for the championship?
I don't know. It depends how I do in the next race. I think Chris and Eric and maybe even Peter, they have a little bit better chances now than I have. And if I don't do so well next race, I will support Chris in the championship here. But next race is Cascava. It's quite good for me, so we'll see.
Yep, so well done, Robert. Obviously not your best event ever, but hopefully you can rebound from that and do well in the future and keep the championship fight alive. And that's we're just going to finish off with one final quick interview. And Scott, I believe, is talking to Rasmus Salo, who had a couple of fantastic races.
He certainly did. Rasmus, just to quickly finish up, just give us a very quick summary of your two races. Race 1, you're a little bit back in the pack and battling near the end of the top 10. Race 2, a bit further up, and managed to get yourself into contention for a podium. And it did finish third. So just talk us through, give a brief summary of both races for us.
Okay, yeah. Both qualifyings were decent, P5. Not too bad, but not the best. And race 1, yeah, I was happy with my pace and managed to keep the car healthy, which I didn't in race 2. And thanks to Ryan going wide, I got P4. And then the second race, I somehow managed to ram the car into the wall at the beginning, and that slowed me down throughout the whole race. But thanks to everybody else battling against each other, I got P3. So yeah, pretty good, but not the best.
And very quickly, do you think that the pace you showed today is an indicator you could potentially win a race later on this season if you keep going forwards?
Well, if I put a bit more effort into preparing for the events, then yeah, absolutely.
Excellent stuff. Well, congratulations on the 2 results today. That was fantastic. And hopefully you can continue on forwards with that one. So well done, Solo, for your races today.
Thank you, Scott.
And I guess really, that is it. I guess we'll give a very quick reminder once again for what's coming up in the next few races, as I'm sure John did just after the race. But we'll do it once again one more time, just so it's fresh in the memory. The next race coming up for Touring Pro Series in its Fall Winter Championships is the Virtual Supertech Series Round 2 at Jerez. That's going to be this Saturday. Should be myself and Mr. Ryan Cowan commentating on that one. Next race is going to be next Wednesday with Keith Barrick and Danny and Toby Davis commentating on that one. The magnificent Virtual Touring Masters, the Leviathans that are the Group 5 race cars, will be round Salzburg Ring in Austria for their second event. And of course, the next round of the hotly anticipated and hotly contested Virtual Carrera Cup will be the following Saturday after that, and that will be at Lebanon in France. So, John, just to wrap up, final thoughts. It was two race victories for. It was a double up on victories for Chris Butcher in Curitiba. We've seen the same thing happen to Eric Strana here in Jacarepagua. Could we see a trend forming here, or do we think possibly we could be seeing our 2 championship contenders forming in the shape of Chris Butcher and Eric Strana? Do you think there's more drivers that are still yet to show their true colours as we go forward?
Well, I think what's happened tonight, Scott, is Ice Cold have shown they want to be, just because Precision are gone doesn't mean that THR are not going to have any challengers, and I think they've shown that tonight with some fantastic results. Absolutely dominant in this event. Walk racing also very impressive today, and I think it's maybe a wake-up call for THR because they were struggling quite a bit today. Obviously, Chris had good pace in race 1, but they both seemed to struggle a bit in race 2. And also, I mean, Toby Davis had a bit of a nightmare event, and Matazowski didn't have too great an event either. So I think it's just showing that without Precision, there's still going to be incredible battles up the front, of course, and Ice Cold and Walk Racing are going to be right there all season, and as unpredictable TPS as always. So we're never going to know who's going to be champion until the checkered flag falls on the final race of the season. So yeah, a great event all round, and I'll let you round it off, Scott.
Absolutely. So the next round time you'll see the minis is in 2 weeks' time. So this 2 weeks on this time in 2 weeks. It'll be at Cascavel. 2 more races as we had in this format. Of course, 2 more qualifying sessions and 2 more races to see if we'll get possibly our 3rd double win of the season. But for the moment, Eric Strana is once again showing his form. 2 race victories tonight. 1 starting from pole and 1 starting from in the top 5 at least. But can Chris Butcher bounce back after he wasn't able to get he got a podium but couldn't do well in race 1? Well, Rob Wiesmuller, can he bounce back also? And the likes of possibly Peter Dweebler and Ryan Cowan can walk racing to get themselves some points, 1 or 2 victories later on. Thanks to John Munro once again, of course, for co-commentating today. I've been Scott Woodwiss. This has been a Touring Pro Series broadcast shown on Multi-BC. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. And until next time, we're signing out, and we'll catch you guys next time in Cascavel. And stay tuned to Touring Pro Series for more championships over the winter. But until then, for myself and John, bye for now.